Hey there 40k fans, I'm back and welcome to the relaunch of Obsec Tactics. Hey there and welcome back to Obsec Tactics. We're here in the brand new studio and I'm joined by Toby and Korben, two Space Marine players, and we're here to talk about the Space Marine new Codex. So my first thing that I really like about this new Codex is that the chapters aren't specifically locked to their rules. They're a style of detachment that you can use across any of the chapters you want. So for instance, if you're playing Blood Angels, you might want to look at the White Scars-ish type detachment and stuff like that. That's by far my favourite thing on the Codex.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point to mention as well, because I think most of us are actually not going to be playing the standard Codex compliant Marine chapters, but having that flexibility really, I think, puts Marines into another level, and I think that's really what I'm taking from this book, and the fact that I get to play my two favourite chapters of Salamanders and Dark Angels in the same army, that makes me really happy. So I think, you know, it's some might argue it's not so fun for the flavour, but I think there's reasonable adjustments that you can make that still make it quite flavourful and quite fun. And if you still want to play it in that traditional style, you absolutely can. So I think it's really positive. Although, as we've discussed a little bit, the Codex not uncompliant chapters and their abilities do feel a little bit outdated and a little bit weaker in the context of this new book, so it'll be interesting to see how that's corrected and how many formations they actually have access to once their codex is dropped as well, because it could easily get up to 9 formations that they've got access to, which would be crazy.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, so the initial thoughts, I think something really important to sort of mention with this is obviously we have, like you mentioned before, obviously we have all of the new different things that we can look through for the book. There's obviously, we've got 7 detachments just in this codex alone to look through, to be able to use, not to mention some of the other ones, the detachments that we have access to. For example, myself being a Black Templars player, I can obviously use the Righteous Crusaders as well, so I technically have 8 available to myself. And I think that it's going in a very good direction. I'm glad to see there was a change to Oaths. Unfortunately, it's not what I wanted to see, but I think it's a good change for the balance of the game. In terms of obviously the change to the reroll wounds, and I think we'll obviously mention later on how they've decided to try and sneak it back in a detachment later on. But no, I think overall the codex is very positive. Yeah.
So with the big changes to Oaths that Korben's just mentioned, I think we can't underestimate the power that Twin Linked brings to the table now. Getting those reroll wounds where, you know, as before we relied so heavily on Oaths for them, just makes it invaluable, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Korben, do you want to start on that?
Yeah, so obviously we've got, there's definitely a couple ways that you can get some form of rerolls in. Obviously the easiest way is the twin linked. You've got your units like your aggressors that have the twin linked on their bolt storm gauntlets. You've got
as well as in combat.
Yes, as well as in combat as well. You've also got both variants of the Inceptors, both the Assault Bolters and the Plasmas, both are twin linked as well. Obviously both very strong units in GLADIUS, and previously will be even stronger in this book as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point to make, and I think the other thing is that the reason they've done it is because they wanted to give a little bit more flexibility with your wounding abilities rather than just rerolls, and if you had just pure rerolls, then they'd start being quite broken quite quickly. So I think the fact that we can actually turn around and go, okay, what twin linked units are good, and some of our twin linked units and Scepters were already high quality, almost auto takes in most Marine armies. So we're certainly going to get some interest from that. But now they've got more synergies that we can use and more abilities that we can push onto them. So I'm seeing some really positive things we can actually do with Oath, which on the surface is a huge nerf. But I think there's real scope that we can approach it in a slightly different way and take advantage of different rules to get that competitive outcome that we want.
Absolutely.
Alright, so now we're going to talk about some of our favourite units and maybe one that didn't quite do so well out of it. So the Lieutenant, that's really got you excited, right?
Yeah, I'm really liking the Lieutenant with a Combi Weapon specifically. So he's a lone op, he can infiltrate, which is really handy. I've been using him to get the secondaries like your area denials and those ones are very good with him. He still keeps his ability to be able to move away 6 inches If you come within 9 of him, which makes him really survivable, not to mention he's got a 5-up feel no pain, and again, is a lone op. The main change that I think is very important that's going to be linking with our Oath change is he now just picks an objective in no man's land and gets reroll 1s against it. You no longer need to be within 6 inches of the model himself to get the benefit.
Nice.
It's just the whole army gets it within range of this objective if your opponent's on it.
So it's objectives in no man's land.
Yes, yeah. So you pick at any one. Obviously, if you've got particularly maybe a little bit of an open midfield area, and you say if you want to score some primary on this middle objective, I'll be rerolling 1s against you. I'll get some of that benefit back. With obviously because you had the oaths as well, the reroll 1s wasn't necessarily as good.
Reroll 1s to wound.
Reroll 1s to wound, yeah,
nice.
Is very important. And at a flat 70 points, I don't think you can go very much wrong with them.
No, I agree.
Cheap.
Yeah, I think
Really
so.
100%.
Just really, really handy, really useful. Gets around the board, and that sort of 6-inch run away if they get close to him is just so solid as well. Because you think about the amount of cover, he's an infantry model. He can jump around, get back in behind cover, and it really is just going to massively improve that maneuverability. And his ability to score those points as well as just being a bit of a pain in the backside, which 100%. I think, forcing your opponent to make more decisions is always a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So then we've got the scouts. I think this is something everyone's been talking about. The scouts, super cheap, and their abilities to start the game very positively and then disappear after every opponent's turn as long as they're what was it 6 inches they can't be
6 inches away.
Yeah, really nice.
Yeah, I think also for these scouts as well, they've been buffed. They also infiltrate and scout. They have both of the key rules now, so they can move up into no man's land and scout 6 as well. So they can go really far. So they can quite easily infiltrate into a building. If you know you're going first, scout 6 inches and potentially be there for your investigate signals or anything like that. I think, especially before, you had either normal scouts before only scouted and your snipers infiltrated. Now these guys having both, it's really good with that rule.
No, 100%. I think their flexibility for 55 points is just unparalleled.
I mean, that's dirt cheap.
Yeah.
There's not much that's in the game cheaper than that.
Well,
really.
This has always been the thing. Marines have always struggled with being an expensive army with a 3-up save, and then they've been punished for it really heavily. And with the changing cover as well in 10th, I think they've been challenged a little bit more around that as well, which is why we saw more of a shift to 2-up save Terminators, 2-up save Redemptor Dreadnaughts towards the end after Desolator Winter. And then I think the fact that we can get lots of cheap models on the board to do our actions, and we don't have to worry about our action play so much anymore. I think it's only more positive. Conversely, I think it's going to make units like infiltrators even more important, because the ability to screen out your opponent, and that's something. So I'm not taking scouts in my list, and I'll talk about that later. But that ability to screen your opponent off the board and to force them back, I think is going to be even more important, especially if we see these rules of coming up and redeploying more. And I think we are seeing them a lot more.
100%. Yeah. Also, not to mention as well, you can give them shotguns. They have assault weapons. You can do those actions even better than that as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
So then, Centurions have got you a bit excited, haven't they?
Yeah, so to be honest, it's even both variants, and I think I'll go with me being more of a Black Templars player. I did like my siege drills last edition. In 9th, I liked running the big squads with them, because you could obviously bring them back with the apothecaries and things of that nature. But especially for this one, the unfortunate side of this obviously is they keep their 2-up save, which, as we mentioned with the cover rule that Toby mentioned before, is very good with the 2-up save, 4 wounds. The unfortunate side is they do only move 4 inches for an assault unit, so you probably need to put them in some sort of, maybe a Gladius to get them the advances and charges and things of nature, because you can spend the CP to do it for them. I think the one thing that's very important for these Centurions is not to mention with oaths, if you can oath a target and you can get your reroll hits still, they sustained hits on 2s against monsters and vehicles, which is very good when you can potentially spike those saves. With them hitting on 3s with their melee weapons especially, not having to worry about that sort of thing is very, very good, and you can just put a lot of saves. Even with a 3-man unit with 9 attacks in combat, that can still spike and you can get quite a lot of hits through. Not to mention every single one of their weapons, melee and ranged, they're all twin linked.
Yeah, twin linked, again, so powerful.
Yeah.
I think there was a really interesting point that I think we'll probably get FAQ'd very, very quickly, and it's the Corvus Blackstar can take one kill team in it, and you can put Centurions as a kill team, and you can put quite a few of them in as a kill team. So you can have your Corvus Blackstar zoom across the board with its massive kill team of Centurion assault squads, really, really abusing the rules as written, dump them out. Charges, it's brutal, horrible, should be FAQ'd. We'll see if anyone decides to abuse it or not. But it's a fun little thing that you can try, but you will be that guy.
Yeah. Well, let us know if you're planning on doing that, please. So what else have we got? So the company heroes, the new kids on the block. Do you want to explain these? Yeah,
so the company heroes is obviously a new unit that's come out. 95 points for essentially a 4-man character unit. You get an ancient in the squad, you get a company champion in the squad, and then you get 2 of your normal company veterans. You get one with just a normal mastercrafted bolter, and then you get one with a hilarious now damage 3 mastercrafted heavy bolter, which can.
It's 3 damage per hit, isn't it? Yeah.
So a heavy bolt is normally damage 2, and then on most of the weapons, as in most editions, Mastercraft gives you an extra damage. Yeah. So they are damage 3, which if I shoot a heavy bolter and just one-shot a single Terminator, I would find quite funny. I doubt my opponent would be, but so I think the limitations is, and I think it's important to note now for these company heroes, is we will be looking to step back in terms of waiting for these rules from GW, in terms of hoping to see some FAQs relating to certain units being able to attach into this squad, because of, as we mentioned before, with the outdatedness of some of the index rules like Black Templar characters, for example. Currently things like High Marshal Helbrecht cannot join this squad because he is not attached to them because the unit wasn't around when he was released in the index. That I assume will be FAQ'd, and I'm pretty sure if you were to take it to a game, no one would complain about that, as long as they've got the keywords which is stated on the data sheet. I'm sure you'll be fine.
Yeah, so Chapter Master
and Captain are the 2 that you need, which obviously
it's hard to see people kicking up a fuss about it.
But I think that's something to note. If you do look at the rules and say, I don't think this unit can, I think we should assume that if they have the keywords, they can, and it will come at a certain point. But one of the cool things, obviously, with this is they've got the Ancient in the squad, so you get +1 OC, so you've got loads of different characters, and anything you join with it will also get +1 OC. And also, if there's a character joined with that unit, they are -1 to wound, which for a 4-up toughness character squad can be quite durable. Especially with a character, and you probably don't. It's a lot of attacks in combat, especially depending on what character you put with it. For example, if I put Helbrecht in it, he can just sort of say, I'm gonna do 12 attacks and sort of try and mince some people. So I think that squad for 95 points plus whatever character, because it's also important to note as well that if you don't have a character in the squad, it just dies in deployment. You can't set up without a character attached in the squad. So be careful with that one as well. I think that's a cool 95 point squad to just do some shenanigans with as well and have a character, and I think could potentially be a little bit disrespected by an opponent to say, I don't know if that unit, it can do some serious damage given the right character as well. But I think especially it's a lovely new kit as well. I think as well. It looks. I love the models. So.
Absolutely.
I think so.
Gorgeous new kit.
For sure.
I think particularly the fact that also that Mastercrafted Heavy Bolt having sustained hits 2 rather than sustained hits 1 is quite entertaining. Because if you spike on that, that's looking real tasty. Something that we actually didn't talk about when we were planning this, but I was thinking if you put an apothecary in with this squad as well, they've got 4 wounds apiece.
They do have 4 wounds apiece.
So that's, we're looking at bringing back 4 wounds a turn. I'm personally going to put them with Azrael when they're able to. So they've got a 4-up invulnerable save, returning 1 a turn. They do have a 3-up normal save, which is a bit of a shame. But there's a lot of scope there to really make a very spiky unit that can get those clutch pushes that you need to do, which I think for me with Azrael, the fact that I want him alive for as long as possible so that he can hide at the back as a CP generator. The fact that
I'm so sorry. Carry on.
The fact that I can then clutch in with this Company Hero squad for ultimately 200 points with Azrael and Company Heroes, that they're probably going to be able to punch up above their weight, especially when you add in the sustained hits from Azrael. So I really think there's
100%.
Because originally I was taking Sternguard, but I think we're going to come on to them and how sad
they are in a minute. Maybe.
Yeah. So let's get all the good stuff we're excited about first, and then we'll talk about the Sternguard. So, I mean, other characters, we talked about Marnez Calgar going in and getting advance and charge.
Yeah, so there are a few, I would say, if you're an Ultramarine player, you're probably very happy with this company hero squad with obviously the give or take 4 pages worth of characters you guys can take for Ultramarines. There are quite a couple good characters you can take.
Uriel Ventris was another
I would
one.
say the 2 you're probably looking to take the majority of the time is going to be Uriel Ventris and Calgar. Calgar again has the CP generation and gives the unit advance and charge and I believe shoot as well. He gives them the sort of the doctrines, if you will, in that regard. And obviously, if you put that with the company heroes, especially with the damage that they can put out, especially getting the heavy bolter, for example, to be able to advance and shoot and things like that, is obviously very handy. And they also very swing very hard in combat. With obviously the company heroes as well. We wait to see if it does have a company champion, which normally allows you to do advances and do the heroic intervention for free. Currently doesn't state on this like it does in the command squad, so I don't know whether that potentially would come up at some point, because normally when there's specific characters in a squad, they gain those abilities again, as they would as a normal attaching character, but we'll have to see. But I think Calgar, again, the same as Azrael, he also hits very hard and he gives sort of good buffs as well.
And explain what Uriel does for the...
So Uriel Ventris, I think, so the main role you're probably going to be using him for is you can actually give in the deployment stage in the game, so you don't have to select this pre-game. You choose an infantry unit to deep strike because he is the commander of the fleet. So he just picks an infantry unit. For example, if you wanted to, deep strike, give some aggressors deep strike, as we mentioned before, you can, and it also includes obviously the detached character because they are 1 unit. So if you wanted to put a Gravis captain and some aggressors to obviously use those battle tactics that I'm sure we'll get onto, you can just deep strike them in 9 inches away, obviously if screened, or because they have the deep strike keyword, you can rapid ingress them.
And as we've already talked about, the Ultramarines are not limited to their typical kind of detachment. They can use any of the detachments here. So there's some really fun combos which we'll talk about there. So we've already got aggressors. We've kind of touched on that, but they have come out swinging in this edition, haven't they?
They have,
Lots of ways to get them up to. Well, I saw AP2. But you said AP3.
You can AP3, yeah. So there's a few combos with the aggressors. For example, obviously they get their normal +1 AP against the closest target. If you, for example, I'm looking at the Vanguard detachment myself. You can spend a CP if you're outside of 12 inches. Obviously, the guns are 18, so you're okay with that. You gain +1 ballistic skill, which is important because ballistic skill, you obviously is a lot of modifiers that don't stack with that. So, for example, if you get +1 ballistic skill and +1 to hit, they both stack. So it negates potentially 2 lots of negatives to hit as well. Which is obviously really important, and it also gives them getting +1 AP, taking them to -2 base. And if you take, and I think some of the Storm Speeders are also quite good, there is also one, I believe it is the Hail Strike.
That's right.
Which is the anti-infantry one. It doesn't, so this wouldn't work on a monster or a vehicle because the Hail Strike can't work on them, so any other models. That would actually take them up to AP3 with all of their weapons, which is a lot of shots, especially if you're taking a character with them to get the lethal hits. You're already re-rolling all of your attacks for hits with oaths potentially, or just hitting on 2s if you were using my strat, for example. And then you're twin linked. Obviously the frags at the top aren't twin linked, the blast one, but the main shots, if you're running a 6-man squad, are still 18 shots that are also twin linked at AP3. And if you want to even combo some more, there's ways you can get them to winded vehicles and stuff like that on 5s, but that's you've got the lethal hits baked in. But yeah, I think there's definitely some stuff you can buff those up with. They obviously, it's also probably good to mention that
just going to go and buy myself some aggressive.
So obviously they went back up from 100 flat for 200 for 6. They're now 110 back up to 220 as they were in the original index release. They dropped down I think rightly so, for 200 for 6 of these guys. Also, not to mention, they got better in terms of their melee weapons. They, for some reason, kept the ballistic, weapon skill 4 on their melee weapons. Right. That has been changed back to match the power fist. They now hit on 3s in combat now.
Oh, lovely.
So they're just hitting on 3s across the board.
They might be the biggest winner for me. Those and scouts.
I don't think many people would disagree with you there.
That's huge.
I think you've got to put it into the context that this was the one unit in the book that went up in points.
Yes.
So that must have been during testing. They've gone, oh goodness me! If you take just 2 bricks of this and maybe some redeemers to get them about the board.
Yeah.
Oh look, your opponent's dead. They're just so powerful. They have so much play. Tiny little thing of going up from toughness 5 to toughness 6 feels huge. So impactful. I mean, I know when you
heavy bolters wounding on 5s.
Actually, that came up when I was playing against Korben, and it caught me out, and actually it nearly resulted in me losing the centre objective. It was really really dangerous.
You were going to say losing your mind there.
Oh well, yeah, losing my mind, losing the game, losing everything. But yeah, it was. It's really surprisingly impactful. That 5 to 6 is got a lot of play, which surprised me. But it's every time I've had it come up, it's been really positive.
It's also the amount of stuff that is strength 3 that elves have. Winning them on 6s is not what you want to do. +1 to wound, winning on 5 still with any sort of strength 3 weapon that you might have a volume of attacks, but a lot of people don't. We had a luxury as a Space Marine to have reroll wounds. Which is can still obviously have access to. A lot of people don't have those sorts of luxuries, so if people come into them with some sort of strength 3 weaponry, they're going to have a really bad time.
Yeah, that's horrific.
Yeah.
Okay, so enough about the aggressors, and I can't believe I'm saying that. It's so much fun to talk about them, but we've got to get on here. So Dreadnaughts as well. So a lot of the rules haven't changed that much, but big points drops, eh?
Yes. So you've got, I would say, your 3 main Dreadnaughts, which are your Primarisified Dreadnaughts, I think is the easiest way to put it. You've got your Redemptors, you've got your Ballistists, and you've got your Brutalis Dreadnaughts. Obviously, something to mention as well, obviously with the new releases as well, you can now buy your Brutalists separately now. They now have their own kit.
Yeah.
You don't have to just buy them in the Augustus Strike Force, I think it was. A lot of them are very good. The Brutalis, for example, has gone down from 210 to begin with. When it released in the index, it's now a 175. And all of its weapons are also twin linked. All of its melee weapons are twin linked because it's got 2 of them. It can have 2 heavy bolters or multi-mellas in its chest.
Yeah.
Twin linked. The top ones, twin linked. Everything's twin linked.
Nice.
Yeah. No, I think Dreadnaughts have been a real winner because also going from 9th to 10th, they've already had this, but it's that 2-up save.
2-up save, toughness 10.
It really is just so impactful because they're also reasonably easy to hide. I think what's going to be interesting is where they're competing for those point slots. So obviously the anti-armour Ballistus is up against like the Gladiator Lancer.
Yes.
And the Gladiator Lancer has traditionally probably outperformed it. So I think it's going to be a really interesting question of which one maybe can take that. Is that 2-up save more impactful than both smoke and that slightly better gun? So I think that's going to be a really interesting question going forward. Now the other thing for the Redemptor, I think it's just a take-all. It's good at doing just about everything. There isn't many situations where you go, well, I can't solve that by punching it to death. So that's got me quite excited. I think the claws on the Brutalis being twin links and also having that sweep attack. Yes. Because I mean, if you look at the lovely border set up here, most of those Dreadnaughts would actually struggle going into something like that, and they could get bogged down and locked up in combat quite easily by cheap blobs. But you get the sweep attack that they can do, and suddenly you're actually able to carve straight through, especially with something like Tank Shock, doing those mortal wounds first, doing its ability mortal wounds, and then sweeping up. So you've got that chaff clearance to kind of win that flank fully if you need to take out the teeth that they've got coming into you, and then to deal with the units that they wanted to try and do actions and things like that.
So worth noting, isn't it, like for the Ballistus Dreadnought, whilst it's not obviously seen as the in any way, the combat variant of it.
No.
With tank shot, it can still put out a lot of hurt on the charge.
Yeah, so it's strength 7 on its melee weapon on its armoured feet, which is strangely better than the majority of armoured feet. And those attacks, for example, I believe a lot of the other stuff is normally strength 6. So a lot of the time, even against GLADIUS, you're still rolling 9 dice for tank shot. You can spike that. You're obviously maxed at 6 mortal wounds. You're probably going to be getting 3 to 4 mortals, which could just kill a guy just with a CP for a guy that really shouldn't be doing anything in combat whatsoever.
Yeah. And of course, getting out onto an objective might be handy.
Yeah, OC4, all of them OC4.
Yeah. Okay. And then I think you wanted to talk about the Terminators potentially, just maybe slightly, but go ahead.
Yeah, just a really short one on the Terminators. Obviously, Relic Terminators are gone, which I'm a little bit sad about. But I was just looking at the Assault Squad Terminators, and it comes under Twin Linked, and it's just their Lightning Claws. Suddenly, that's 50 attacks, hitting on 3s, and then usually, if they're going into infantry, probably ruining on 3s or 4s. But if you put the chaplain in to get the +1 to wound,
you go Lance as well.
Exactly. So there's all these options to suddenly improve. If you're in Gladius, you can take the captain and do honour the chapter, and if you're in the assault doctrine, suddenly that's AP -3 on those 50 attacks, re-rolling the wounds with +1 to wound. That's tasty.
Yeah.
And then also you've got to think that how much that's still. 30 wounds with a 4-up invulnerable save and a 2-up save. Very easy to hide and cover as well. They're going to go through things.
Is there any way to get devastating wounds on them there? I don't think there is there?
Not off the
only equals armour saves. You'll still get your. You'll get the. Obviously, for my Terminators, we had the Feel No Pains. Obviously, the Dev Wound changes a little bit more lackluster in terms of your chaplain mortal wound defense. But. The Dev Wounds is probably what you'd have to do against that squad. Also not to mention, if you're sending 50 attacks in, they have to take a battle shot before you even start hitting. If they fail it, no defensive stratagems allowed.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, that's a really good point. But also just to clutch that charge in, potentially on that objective that you need them gone, OC0 suddenly. You take that objective. That I think is a really, really good point to make.
Yeah, very much so. And then we come to the slightly. And only slightly sad part of this codex. So the Sternguards, they've lost their, I think it was bolted discipline, was it?
The double shoot, yeah.
The double shoot. So basically, if they kill the unit in their shooting phase, which with their weaponry in a squad of 10 is very doable, they got to shoot again. It was only a once per game ability.
That's a shoot.
But now they've lost it, and it's gone to. Anyone got the current one?
It's reroll 1s against the oath target to wound.
Yeah. So
it's.
It's all game long.
It's useful. It's definitely not as good. They went down, I believe, 5 points for 5. I think they're 100 flat now for 5 guys.
They were 110 by the time we got to the last edit. I think that rule's going to come up more. Rerolling ones. It's a shame that they have to go in against the oath target. I think if they just made it. They get to reroll 1s. They'd actually be a reasonable unit. They're specialists, lots of experience. It would make sense for them to be able to target the weak bits of the Emperor's enemies. But I think that having to target the Oath, I wouldn't think about taking them in a blob. I'm not spending 200 points on Sternguard when I can spend 200 points on far better units. 200 points is a Redemptor Dreadnought. Why would you take 10 Sternguard over a Redemptor? I think there's not much.
It's also got more shots, I'm pretty sure, as well.
Well, yeah.
Especially because your then issue you had with the Sternguard is you wanted to take those anti-infantry weapons because you got the reroll wounds. Well, now if you only reroll 1s against the oath target, you sort of want to take the combi weapons to try and get the anti-infantry, not just the dev wounds part, because you only get it on 6s. It's so less likely to get those dev wounds where you're getting a lot of your damage from. Then it then becomes the sort of thing of like, what am I doing here, really?
I mean, I found in my games against a friend of mine, Dave, that the combi weapons are just very good at removing Terminators. Like, oh my god, you can do some work into Terminators, where actually a lot of people and a lot of units in the game will struggle. But yeah, they've taken a hell of a knock.
Yeah, I think the rapid fire could also be something if you wanted to take your Uriel Ventris deep strike have them just deep strike and rapid fire range. Could be something good if you want to over that target.
Yeah.
Get the reroll ones, could be going, but I think that's a lot of combo and things you have to do in the game to make that work as well as you probably want it to.
Yeah, I think the good thing is the way that we're discussing them it shows the internal balance of the book, because
100%.
they're still a solid unit. They 100 points for 5. You know, maybe I'm not totally excited about it, but I wouldn't be disappointed.
No.
Just as that, you know, that skirmish line or my backfield objective holder, they're absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But I do think that there's so much positive internal balance in the book that that's why we're picking them out on that. But they're really, I would say,
the worst of a very good bunch.
Yeah, exactly. And apart from maybe Reavers and maybe Suppressors, they would be the worst. And the fact that we're still going, maybe I take these in a list, I think that's a really good sign.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. Okay, so now we're going to have a quick chat about the various new detachments that we get. So just to cover GLADIUS, as we all know, it was kind of like the Ultramarine thing. It's all about being adaptive to your surroundings and then getting various bonuses by putting units into the doctrine that they might not be in that turn. We can talk about Armour of Contempt, use it in any of your opponent's phases and reduce the AP of an attack against one of your units. It's actually in every one of the detachments, so you know you can still use it even if you decide to go into something like the IRONSTORM Spearhead. It's really good.
Yeah.
Moving along onto the more interesting stuff, we've got the ANVIL Siege Force. So this is your generic kind of Imperial Fists type detachment, but obviously you can use it, as we talked about, with any of your chapters at home. It's got some cool stuff. So it's all about standing still to get your bonuses. You're going to get heavy if you stand still, so you're +1 to hit on any weapons, and then if you already have heavy, you're going to get a further +1 to wound, which is nice. How do we feel about it? Because we all know that movement's a big thing in this game.
I think, especially with me being such a, I would say with the armies that I play, quite a melee focused player. I do like running up the board, I like using my melee. It's such a weird dynamic for me to think about, but you can definitely see the positives in this. I think, obviously, just by looking at it, if you stand still to shoot, you're probably going to be looking at some indirect weapons here. You're probably looking at these sorts of things would be taken in, you know, your whirlwinds. Obviously the Desolators have been nerfed, but still probably in this detachment alone, probably quite good. I think those are the sorts of things you're looking at, and we can obviously see some combos going on with when we move on to enhancements and stuff like that. But I think there's a little bit of a focus for Gravis armor as well in this detachment. I think is also something that we'll see come up as well.
Yeah, so with the Desolation Marines, their super frag / crack ones are the heavy missiles.
They're the heavy ones, yeah.
So they're also going to be benefiting from the +1 to wound.
Yes.
I feel like maybe this is going to be a little bit almost Astra Militarum-esque in that, you know, having that backfield full of artillery firing forward, and then as Space Marines, you've got the stuff to rush up there and do some pretty big hurt as well.
Yeah.
I kind of like the idea of it. You know, you've got you know your big supporting fire, maybe a Land Raider or two, sort of, I don't know, Aggressors, Terminators, whatever your fancy is. It's kind of thematic towards Imperial Fists. You've got the no backwards step, which, if any of you are, I think, Siege of Terror fans, it comes up in the no backwards step thing. Very thematic there. Double your OC. Or as long as you remain stationary there, so you can't move onto an enemy objective and steal it, but you can make sure that no one does it to you at least. Situational, but cool.
I think one thing that's very important to mention, obviously, if we're looking into these, obviously we can mention some enhancements in a minute. But I think one thing that's a very good combo, especially with this, is you've got your rigid discipline, which is the stratagem above, which allows you to move in your opponent's fight phase, and you remain stationary in your movement phase, so you can move on to an objective in your opponent's fight phase, remain stationary, then double your OC in your own turn.
Oh, nice.
So there are ways to get that. I think we've mentioned before in our discussions. Unfortunately, there's no real way to make a unit remain stationary. No CP strat, no potential enhancement, anything like that. But I think your rigid discipline is something you'll be playing around with. Obviously, that is specifically a fallback. But if you're falling back to do OC stuff on objectives, then either you're already on it, or if you can fall back onto an objective, moving just a flat 6 is obviously really good to be able to go on there.
So help me out with the rules thing. If you, because now you can get out of your transports at the end of your movement phase.
Yep.
Is your unit counted as having moving if it's stayed within that 3 inches?
Yeah.
Still, okay, so you
Yeah,
can't even get around it like
yeah.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'll be honest, this is actually one of the ones I'm a bit less keen on. I think it's one of the weaker ones.
Yeah.
You know, rigid discipline, it does have some play, but that restriction of having to be in your deployment zone or onto an objective marker, I think really holds it back.
I think,
it's a real shame on that one. I think looking at them, it's also a strategic ploy rather than a battle tactic, so you can't do it for free.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the enhancements are okay.
Yeah.
I think maybe there is some play with that, you know, artillery park, 3 whirlwinds, maybe some vindicators as well, although vindicators strength 14, you really need +1 to wound.
Yeah.
And then, you know, there's definitely some bits, and I think I'll come on to this when we talk about my list that I've sort of developed, but I just think that lack of movement around secondaries is just, it makes me not want to play them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think maybe there's scope if you can pick those units up, so with scouts, with the lieutenant, with the Calgar assassin as well, there is ways that you can get around it, but I feel like with trying to find ways to get around it for a rule that isn't actually that good.
Okay. Well, one thing I will say that I do quite like about this is the no threat too great.
Yep.
It's a battle tactic. It's 2 CP, and it's full rerolls to wound against a monster or vehicle.
Correct.
Now, the fact that you can get that for free because it's a battle tactic is very, very nice.
Mm-hmm.
And really, probably monsters and vehicles is where you're going to want to get the rerolls.
Absolutely.
So I don't think that's a bad thing at all.
Yep.
But like you say, it feels like do you really want to have to be compensating for your main role? Probably not.
No.
Probably not. Okay, so let's turn the page. Now this is where I'm super excited because I love the idea of Iron Wing, and I'm probably going to be making something towards that with my Dark Angels. The IRONSTORM Spearhead. So do you want to take it away?
I'd love to. I think a thing for, especially the detachment rule, people will probably remember Arsenals of War, the re-rolls that you got in 9th edition. It's just a little bit better because you now also do damage as you need to. I think this rule you'll see very much with the glow up towards your Ballistas Dreadnaughts, already re-rolling hits. You can then choose to re-roll the wound or the damage on those last cannon D6 +1 or the crack shots, the D6 shots.
That's nice.
You get some synergy there. You can obviously choose when you need to. I think that's really good, especially when you will go onto these enhancements. I think the one sort of missing for me, the flesh is weak. Given a model of 4-up, feel no pain is not the people that I can think you'd probably want to give it on are the alone ops. They already have a 5-up, feel no pain. Do you really want to spend the points? I mean, if you've got it free, give it a 4-up instead of a 5-up maybe. But there's definitely, I think these other 3 though are very, very good.
Yeah, they're an auto attack, aren't they?
I think you when you build this list, I think you instantly say I'm working with 1915 points and say 85 points on my list is automatically I need to find characters that use these. I know the 3 characters I'm going to take with these. We've mentioned one of them before, the lieutenant with lone op. We'll see here that the Master of War at the bottom, the one that lets you shoot it even if you fall back or advance, is only an Adeptus Astartes model, not a Tech Marine exclusive one. So I will be putting that on him because he's a lone op. And I will have 2 more Tech Marines in my list that both get lone op as well. One of them will have your target web, again, another aura. You get lethal hits, 40 points, very expensive, but auras need to be expensive in this edition. You're paying tax points for specific units to get these buffs when you attach a character to a unit.
Yeah. So just to clarify for the guys back home, so Master of War allows your vehicle Astartes unit to fall back, not charge, but still shoot, right?
And advance.
Yep. So it's a great way of maybe getting your Dreadnought off out of combat, still able to shoot and onto an objective. That's really good.
Yep.
And then the other one you were talking about
is the top one, the target web. The other 2 are obviously Tech Marine exclusives to give a unit within 6 inches a vehicle lethal hits with the amount of stuff. You can't reroll wounds anymore. Well, if you've got reroll to hits and you can get lethal hits, you don't need to roll those wounds anymore. Very good for
So I really like this on the Executioner because it's got so many guns. And actually, so many of those guns. I think 14 if you kind of roll the anti-fly gun into the 10 other ones, are all like strength 4.
Yeah.
So having lethal on those, just nice.
Yeah, same with the, I believe it's 18 shots you get with a repulsor, the normal repulsor. It's array, 24 inch, basically 24 inch, 18 small bottle shots just coming out with lethal hits, potentially re-rolling hits, with just a free damage or anything re-roll. Probably going to save it for your big guns, but it's there if you need it. I think that's really good as well for a Tech Marine. I think, to be honest, I think when you build the Stormhead, I think if you put these 3 characters in, 2 Tech Marines at 55 points each, with these enhancements, get another loan up, probably the Combi guy, because you can then do the reroll ones as well on an objective. Give him the other one. I think you can't really go wrong with those 3 characters there. Pretty much instantly going in my list.
And then the last one.
Oh yeah.
So good. Can't forget this.
Yeah.
It's the Thousand Suns reducer damage to 0 strat, except it's every turn for free because it's an enhancement.
Yeah, and it's
so good.
After you fail a saving throw. So you don't even. So there's some of them where you have to decide. I believe the Tau ones with some of the drones, I believe you have to blank it before you make the save. So for example, some of the Ghost Kills have a 2-up save. You have to just decide that I just don't want to take this damage. Whereas this, you choose. You say, I failed this save, you know what? This last cannon has gone through, I'd rather not deal with that. This rail
so before they roll damage though?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're taking like a shot off a Lancer or something like that, it's a pretty good use.
Yeah, you can also combo this with some strats we've got to go. Obviously, you can change some things to 0. There are specific ways that you can shoot back if you go under half. You can specifically make it so you take a certain amount of damage to be able to shoot back.
Oh right.
Yeah.
So one thing I was thinking that would be quite interesting with this is with Master of Machine War. You could be really aggressive with some repulsor executions, because if you put some incursors in the repulsor executioner, suddenly it's got scout 6.
Yes.
It's got a 10-inch movement base, then you can advance it and still shoot it. So the speed that you could get up the board with that repulsor executioner, and then also if you do get counter charge, you can just fall it back and still shoot.
Yeah.
That ability, I think, is really flexible, really aggressive. 16 wounds that you're throwing in your opponent's face. Throw a couple of them in there.
T12.
Yeah, exactly. That amount of firepower, if you can eliminate their anti-tank in that first turn period, I think you're in a really, really good spot.
Yeah, toughness 12. There's not
toughness 12 is last cannons
last
of course.
Cannons, yeah.
It's going to be dedicated anti-tank, and if you can, and usually because of their own heavy destroyer, they're pretty good at taking out anti-tank, and especially with incursors, if they can just give them +1 to hit as well, alongside those rerolls that they're getting innately. I think it's worth saying that Gladiator Lancers were the premium choice for so long because they had that rule. It was because you didn't need to oath the target to still get value out of them. So that rule is really very dangerous on your anti-tank.
I think also something very important to know when you're using this Master of Machine War ability. With the aura, your Tech Marine has to be within 6 inches when your model ends its move. So you can't have your Tech Marine, anything you want to advance and shoot be too far away, because if your Tech Marine can't get there, it then can't shoot because the aura is not in range anymore. So you do need to play it, the movement, very carefully, but as long as you're measuring that stuff out, amazing enhancement.
I think that's where I'd definitely be taking on the Lieutenant, like you've been talking about, because that's an infiltrator.
Exactly.
So suddenly you
start them ahead of them.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. You're infiltrating up the board. You can play aggressively, but hide him very easily. And then because of that movement, you can deploy quite cagely, but then go forward really quite speedily. And if you get turn 1, that scout move to get you the first 6 inches, and then you can always use a scout move to defensively if you're going second. Then suddenly that 10-inch move, then the advance roll on top, 17 inches minimum. That's really quite dangerous for a tank of A, that size to get around and start shooting targets, and B, just the amount of weapons that it can bring to bear.
Especially with some of these deployment zones, obviously depending on the terrain you're using, there's not a lot of places you can hide from a vehicle that does that. That gun is really long, that can poke through and do that things. There's also some things as well. Obviously we mentioned before myself loving the Combi Lieutenant. Obviously it's got a rule where it can move in your opponent's movement phase. So if you move 9 inches away, get it in range of Dreadnaughts, you can now all of a sudden fall back with those Dreadnaughts.
Where's this rule?
So it's the Combi Lieutenant has its own rule
Right.
that when you come within 9 inches of it, it can move 6 inches
Oh,
away.
I see him. Yeah.
The strike and fade.
Right.
Well, if you can position that to then mean that 6 inches can get, for example, in your turn, your Dreadnought's now in range of this aura, that Dreadnought can now fall back in charge because your opponent's done that movement.
Oh.
There's a lot of tricks you can use with this
Nice.
Combi Lieutenant, especially with an aura.
So I mean, here's the combo for me
Yeah.
in this IRONSTORM Spearhead.
Yes.
You have your Tech Marine
Mhm.
around for the lethal hits. You're a Repulsor Executioner. You're then going 1 CP Mercy's Weakness to give it sustained 1 as well. And it makes you crit on a 5.
Because it's a vehicle.
Yeah.
Yep.
Crits and sustained on 5s. On a Repulsor Executioner or something with a billion guns is fine. You were saying the Storm. What's it called?
The Gladiator chassis one.
No, the Flyer. What are you talking about?
Oh, Storm Raven.
Oh, the Storm Ravens.
Storm Raven. There we go.
On a Thunderhawk.
You can
Yeah.
put it on any. It's just. I think you'll find it's because it's just an Adeptus Astartes unit. You don't have to do it for vehicles, but the vehicles give you your crit 5s.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of vehicle keywords in the Space Marine Codex.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, I think we've seen that power before with the towards the end of before the Codex, it was Aggressors with the Bolters. Plus the Apothecary Biologists with Bolter Discipline on, which is obviously now the different name, Fire Discipline. I think seeing that so good, being able to do that on that tactical flexibility to pull it off on different units, real potential. I think very exciting.
With the Tech Marine thing, they're innate abilities to give like +1 to hit
and C3 heal, yeah.
Right, so you're hitting on 2s most times, unless there's a modifier the enemy has. You miss on a 1.
Potentially oaths.
Right,
you're picking up everything that's not.
You've still got the reliability on here to fish for, even if you hit maybe on a 2, you could actually go and fish for that 5 to get the auto wound and the sustained hit.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I quite like this Mercy's weakness on a Gladiator Reaper, as I was speaking out before. You'll find that on the Reaper sheet against infantry, it gets sustained hits 2 base. So that's proccing on 5s, also proccing on 5s with lethal hits if you've got a Tech Marine nearby.
Against what?
Against infantry. It has 12 shots. You'll find it's also twin link, dev wounds, because it's just a heavy onslaught Gatling cannon. Its base against infantry rule is it gets sustained hits 2 against infantry units.
Oosh.
Which then procs on 5s if you pop this strat, which also procs on 5s if you've got your target web nearby with your lethal hits as well. That is just an absurd amount of damage that I think about. Yes, it's only 12 shots because obviously it was 24 last edition. It pumped out a lot of shots there. Sustained hits 2, proccing on 5s with potential re-rolls to hit. Out of 12 shots, there's potential you can hit between upwards of 15 to 16 times.
If we do start seeing those horde metas, then I think
that's tasty.
Reapers are also 150.
Yeah, I can't really see any horde army being able to deal with that amount of incoming fire. Something like
especially not from such a cheap unit.
I think demons would really struggle with that. So if we see a demon meta, because obviously they will rely on their invulnerable save. So just the number of shots that you can put into them. That's got a lot. I've not been a fan of the Reaper, truth be told. I've always been a Lancer person, but that's got a lot of really interesting.
I would say this strat makes the Reaper useful. I don't think if you can't reliably put this strat on the Reaper, I don't think for 150 is going to do it. But if you can say have 1 in there and just use it as a little tech piece for 150 points, I think that's going to be quite useful specifically for this strat. But if you don't have it, this strat on any vehicle is still good. Redemptors, I would use this on. Getting a Redemptor to sustain hits and lethal hits on a 5 with a Plasma Exterminator that's D6 plus 1 shots blast, strength 9 AP 4, 3 damage.
But it's got a little onslaught as well.
Little onslaught, it's got the Storm Bolter, it's got a rocket pod, it's got 4 guns, not to mention obviously the melee capability it's got with Tank Shock as well. Yeah. With it rolling standardly 14 dice for Tank Shock because of its strength 12 weapon. The Redemptors are good. There's a reason why my list has 3 of them in it.
I think
just to go over a couple of the other things here. So there's a 1 CP strat here to ignore modifiers
Yep.
to saving throws. Sorry, excluding saving throws. So like any -1 to wound, -1 to hit, shenanigans like that we can overlook. There's a self-destruct one, which is fun.
Can be fun.
Yeah. There's the
Repulsor Executioner. Sorry to interrupt really quickly, but if you Vengeful Animus on a Repulsor Executioner, it can do so much damage. I can't remember who it was I did that against, but I did it. And the amount of mortal wounds that I managed to... I think it was against you, wasn't it?
I think it's D6. I think it exposed you. I think it killed what did it? I think it killed 2 Terminators. I think you rolled a 6.
Yeah, I rolled a 6 into a 6,
yeah.
and 2 Terminators went down.
So it's 2 Terminators, because that unit didn't have to feel no pain at the time. I think pretty sure the Repulsor chassis demonized D6.
Yeah.
And it's the same as your Land Raiders as well, so if you're being really aggressive with your Land Raiders...
Redeemer maybe, throwing the Redeemer up there, get some Aggressors out, explode out with them, pop out the dudes. Potentially, if you want to, you can 1 CP, not getting them much effective, the +5s, but you can get those Aggressors pumping out sustained hits and lethal hits as normal.
Yeah. It's almost a fun way of delivering the unit as well, because you let them die. And now that instead of a model dying, it takes a
mortal win. 3
You've got
wins.
to fail, say, half of you've got to roll a 1 on half of those dice to lose an aggressor.
Yep.
So you're unlikely to do it statistically. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
So I think there's some interesting plan there. That might be bordering on the slightly more niche examples. But it's certainly something.
100%. Yeah.
Power of the Machine Spirit still there.
Yes, but I think the one Ancient Fury is a really good one. I think with the limitation, the lack of limitations on this, it's just a walker. My sort of favourite for this one is if you need a...
It's the only one, isn't it? That's walker specific.
Yes, just walker specific.
Vehicle. Yes. Yeah, this is specifically Dreadnaughts.
Yeah, so for this walker one, I like this on a Brutalis, or potentially any Dreadnought that needs to be durable on an objective. Just given your Brutalis 9-inch move, toughness 11, keeping a 2-up save, and going up to OC 5.
Totally.
To then have +1 to hit. And it's in your command phase, and it lasts your next command phase. So this will happen when it shoots and it hits.
No, I think that's brilliant. I really like that ability. I think particularly the fact that it takes you to a 1-up save.
Yeah. Armor, contempt, cover.
Exactly.
There you go.
It's there's a lot. That's going to be clutch. I think
100%.
It's a decent one.
Yes.
But it's going to win you some games.
Yeah.
I'm going to bow to your guys' experience on this. For me, 1 CP, it's the same cost as Mercier's Weakness. I don't think it's bad at all, but if we're looking at what am I going to want to spend 1 CP on?
Yep.
I'm probably going to save 1 CP every turn for that.
I mean, you can also Mercier's Weakness in combat as well. So if you save 2 CP, it's your shooting phase or the fight phase. You can have a... obviously, we've spoken about the Brutalis as having twin linked. You can get them proccing sustained hits on 5-ups in combat.
Yeah.
And just send them in tank shock, mortals, the mortal wound ability, and then you're critting on 5 sustained hits with potentially the sweeps that we mentioned. No horde of units surviving that Dreadnought.
I mean, I think this is the best one in the book.
I think
the guys are probably going to agree.
I think it's the strongest, for sure.
The Iron Wing is back.
Back, baby.
One thing I would say, just on your point of what would you prefer to spend the CP
Sure.
I think it is very situational, which I think we always see with stratagems, but Mercier's Weakness seems like an early game. Let me just try and put as much damage onto my opponent. But in that late game, when maybe tight points, being able to go, right, I can get my dangerous, tough to kill unit, even tougher to kill, with a bit more OC, and it can hold that objective. You think of missions like the Alpha and Amagon
Supply drop,
Yeah, supply drop. You think that additional bit of toughness and OC on that objective from something that can also block models from getting onto the objective because it's got a big base. That's where Ancient Fury really is going to come into its own.
OC5 contests every infantry unit that's a 5-man in the game unless they're battle line.
Exactly.
Because it puts you up to the OC5, whereas OC4 base. So you can just contest and deny some primary with it as well.
Okay.
Which is handy. And obviously, I mentioned before the power of the Machine Spirit. If you want to combo the enhancement to take damage, if you get reduced to below half strength, you can just shoot back as if it was your shooting phase. Can't do any of the strats that you would do because it's an Elves. out of phase sequence, but to just say you've shot my, let's say, repulsor executioner that's moved 17 inches, reduce it to half inches, I'm just going to shoot you again, thank you. For 1 CP, all of these stratagems being 1 CP is very good.
Yeah, I think we are quickly identifying that this is a CP hungry army though. And I think what's important about that is also it's very difficult to use the free stratagems as well, because we can't pull as many of the captain tricks because it's their units. So when you're thinking about that, I think you've got to get Calgar in, you've got to get
Azrael.
Exactly, yeah. Get Ultramarines. I think you put Calgar, you put Guilliman in, you get 2 CP in your command phase, and you make one of them free every single turn.
You get 2 from Minus and Guilliman.
No, so if you'll gain 2 at the start of your turn, you gain 1.
Oh, I see what you mean. Right.
Because you don't the one you get in your command phase doesn't actually count. That's why you can discard a card and gain a CP as well, because they don't. That one stacks, and then you have the free strat from Calgar as well. From Guilliman. Yeah. That you can then use on vehicles because it's a unit within 12 inches, so you can still hide him back and make him loan up. He only needs to be within range of another infantry unit. He can be next to one of your tech moons that's already loan up. He can also be loan up.
Totally. No, I think you
they can give each other loan up.
Yeah, Guilliman only needs to be next to an infantry unit to be loan up. That's what it needs to do.
That ability just to keep the, not to be too punny here, but to keep the machine oiled, I think is really, really important.
I think it's necessary.
Farming up that CP. I think if an opponent, and this is also interesting play on how you might beat the IRONSTORM Spearhead, if you can isolate how they generate that additional CP, I think you really take a lot of sting out their tail. Obviously, they're still going to have big shots going in, and they're going to be very durable and survivable. But if you can take out those support pieces and giving them that extra CP, then suddenly maybe they're having to discard cards, or having to make that choice. That I think is really going to put you with an ability to maybe turn the corner, not out damage them, but probably outscore them.
That's where the vect abilities that you'll obviously vect being a sort of term we use is an increasing of the CP by a cost. It means that you can only do it on battle tactics. Well, you'll find that Armour of Contempt and Mercy of Weakness are both battle tactics. So you can make Mercy of Weakness, meaning some of the lists that I'm making, I can have 2 to 3 vex. I can potentially, because they're all different abilities, I can stack them. So I can potentially make your Mercy's Weakness after you use it once 4 CP, and say you cannot use it again.
You can stack them.
You can stack them if they're different abilities. The CP increases. For example, we'll come onto it. There's an enhancement in one of the next ones.
Where are you getting those from? Sorry to take a break.
That's fine. So obviously you can take specific characters that do it. For example, the GLADIUS.
Yep.
And then there's an enhancement in, we'll go on to it, the Vanguard detachment. There's a CP you can do from there. I believe there is another form of way you can do it. I think there's a character that does it as well, that off the top of my head, but at least just by spending 30-point enhancement and a 90-point character that will still play you the mission, you can say, you know what, I really don't want your Dreadnaughts to be armor contempted.
Yeah, this is so good.
Or I really don't want your Mercy of Weakness. They thought they nerfed it with battle tactics, then they thought in the Space Marine Codex, just give every detachment 3 battle tactics. And give you some good opportunity to defect them.
Totally, but I also think they do have a bit of play around that, given the fact that Vengeful Animus, Ancient Fury, and Power of the Machine Spirit are all not battle tactics.
And they are still very good.
Yeah, that's surprisingly, because you can't do them for free with a captain. And you would have to be, using Guilliman to get the stratagems for free on your vehicles. I actually think they're really quite strong.
Absolutely.
And I think, Ancient Fury particularly, that's my one to watch.
Absolutely. I think it's very good.
I think it's going to come up less than Mercy's Weakness, but I think when it comes up, it might be very decisive in those games.
I think Ancient Fury for that. I think Mercy's Weakness is one you just pump out every turn, and then Ancient Fury is just really annoying when someone says, oh, you can do that, this could be an issue.
Yeah.
And I know you're a big fan of the Lancer, right? Just to chuck this in here. So you've already got your own source of reroll damage hit roll. And then you can do it on your other shot if you roll dice like me.
No, I think that's a really good point to make, and just that pure fact that the Lancer was the premium anti-tank because of that ability, and you can give every unit in your army.
That's a great thing for Mercy's Weakness. Imagine exploding a Lancer shot.
Yeah.
Hitting 3 or 4 times if you could do well. That could be not fun. It's lethal hits. I don't need to use my rerolls. I'll save my 2 rerolls for both my damages.
Yeah, that's really nice.
It's a lot.
Okay then, so why don't we dive into the Firestorm Assault Force. So this is your Salamanders style detachment.
This is my favourite.
Toby, do you want to take it away? Because I feel like you're going to explode if you don't.
He's excited now.
I'm very excited. So Salamanders are what got me into playing Space Marines. I love them. I love the way that they behave. I love them in the lore. They are just such a fantastic faction to me. Vulcan being Lord of Hugs is possibly my favourite thing ever. And they're actually really quite good. They were great in 9th. I think the +1 to wound on their melters and flamers was really nice, especially because Eradicators had the new model syndrome of being super good because they wanted to sell more kits.
Multi-melters, wounded big knights on 3s with that. It was not fun for people involved. 2s on small knights. Yeah, it was tough, obviously.
It was a point and delete kind of meta.
Oh, yeah.
And I love playing it. But looking at close range eradication, it solves the 10th problem with melters because it gives you assault on all your weapons, which gives you that flexibility again.
To get in there,
exactly. And then when you're within 12, you add 1 to the strength of that attack. And taking it's almost like we were talking about with taking the toughness of a Dreadnought from 10 to 11. Taking a gun from 9 to 10 is huge because then suddenly those medium tanks are all getting wounded on 4s instead of 5s.
Specifically Dreadnaughts, as I would say, is a very big point on that one.
Yeah, I think it's just because the way that I think Games Workshop have chosen to do it, light tanks tend to be sort of 8 or 9, medium tanks tend to be 10, and heavy tanks tend to be 12.
Yes.
So being able to go, okay, I can now reliably deal with medium tanks with melters is huge. But more importantly, I think the fact that the flamers just become that little bit extra dangerous, especially when they are twin linked on aggressors, is huge. So also the fact that you can give assault to all your weapons, I love that. So I always play armies that maybe don't have as much damage output, but play the mission. They really focus on that movement, that ability, because I'm a big subscriber of you win the game in the movement phase. And that ability to give everything assault is just phenomenal. I'm really excited to use that. If we talk quickly about the enhancements, Champion of Humanity, you can only use it on a Tacitus model, but it does ignore all modifiers, which is real nice. So if you're going into the what's it called? The Redemption Dreadnought, you can ignore that -1 damage.
You can.
Those kinds of things are really powerful. Maybe because it's on Tacitus, it's going to see a little less play because it would be perfect in Gravis, but that's a bit of a shame. By the by though. War-Tempered Artifice, so they add 3 strength to the strength characteristic with various melee weapons. I think you've got real scope there because you go for, I think if you go for the ones that were high attacks and low strength, so your chainswords and things like that.
Okay.
And especially on the Gravis Captain with the Relic Power Fist and not Relic Power Fist, sorry, the Relic Chainsword and the Power Fist. So that's a lot of extra strength on those chainsword attacks, which are just extra attacks. I think the best comparison I can think of is the 9th edition Dark Angels Interrogator Chaplain with the Teeth of Terror. So that suddenly. It was not intended to have that much strength.
Yes.
But you give it that much strength because of those abilities that you could give to it, and suddenly it became this absolute machine. So that isn't one that I would count out. On the surface, doesn't look as strong as some of the other enhancements we talked about, but I think it's still good.
I like it on the Captain as well, being able to pop +3 attacks and dev wounds once per game with +3 strength on his Power Fist, strength 11 on a Power Fist. That's with dev wounds, that's hard.
Yeah, you've gone from wounding Dreadnoughts on
5 to 3s.
Yeah,
that's massive.
With dev wounds, popping 3 attacks, I believe he gets 9 attacks at that point.
Exactly.
Is he innately dev wounds then? Or?
No, that's once per game he pops the strat. So it's not a strat, sorry, it's his ability. So I believe it's I can't remember what it's the ability name. But yeah, once per game he gets +3 attacks and his melee weapons and devastating wounds. Keyword as well, which that's that can hit hard. I think if we're speaking about characters as well, I think before we pop into too much, I think something we need to mention is obviously if this is a Salamanders attachment, we need to mention Vulcan.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I think if we just speak about his Rule Forge Father being able to give these torrent and melter weapons reroll wounds, so give them oaths back. is so good. Not to mention the fact that he, for some reason, picks an objective and says he's OC 10 on it. I think it's hilarious.
I think he's actually it's 4 up, feel no pain.
He has a 4 up feel no pain on the objective he selects.
Oh
as well.
yeah, an OC 10.
And he has a 6 up feel no pain normally. You'll also find that we mentioned the company heroes earlier. He can join that company hero squad, so you can have him with the company heroes. Sort of just, that's the unit you want to join. You probably don't want to put him with Assault Intercessors. Infernus Marines going up to strength 6 with the rule can be handy, but I don't think you really want to be using the Infernus Marines myself. I think the Aggressor Flamers is where you want to be using for the twin linked. I think the +1 strength is not as good as the twin linked, and the Aggressors are then T6 and hitting combat. There's a lot of other things that are viable for them, but Vulcan, in the shooting phase, he just selects one model within 24 inches and he does it every single shooting phase. So it's not the command phase. You can move with him beforehand with his assault weapons to get the visibility within 24 to be able to say, this unit on the other side of the board, I want you to kill this unit with your various weapons. I think he is very good for what he does. I believe he went up 20 points though in this. He went up from 80 to 100. Yeah. I think probably deserved. He's very good.
And so what are we thinking in terms of like delivery for all of this? Obviously we've got the Land Raider with the Flamers.
I think the Land Raider with the Flamers, because he can obviously give the reroll wounds to the Flamer as well.
Also worth mentioning that within all these Flamers that we're potentially taking in Aggressors, like we've got the Overwatch strat, which is
still very good.
So powerful.
Yeah. Which you can do for free because it's still a battle tactic.
Oof.
And especially with Aggressors with the captain.
And twice.
Yeah, it's really very brutal. I think you've got a lot of scope to do some nasty things with it.
When you talk about making, you like to make your opponent make difficult decisions.
Yeah.
Choosing not to charge something like that when you really need them dead with a combat army, that's a difficult decision.
Or just moving within 12 inches.
Yeah.
If you just suddenly go, right, this section of the board you can't get to because if you do, I'll overwatch you to death. That's so much play.
Not to mention some of these strats will go forward as well. Leads a lot into some transport shenanigans, which 100%. I find can be very, very fun.
100%. I mean,
have we covered the enhancements fully now?
Not yet. No.
Two
left.
Go on then.
So Forged in Battle just changes either a hit once per turn, hit roll, or saving throw for a model in that unit to a 6.
Good.
It's handy. I'm not sure I'd pay points for it, but it's handy.
You'd have to like find the right weapon with sustained or lethal to do it.
Yeah, it's more so for me. It's more so saving throw. I think as well. The clutching.
It's
good.
It's a saving throw, or the niche scenario that I can think of is if you have an Eradicator squad, potentially with a Biologist with lethal hit, you can flip a hit to a 6 to make it auto wound, but then you're then sort of trying to pay combo points with a character and an enhancement for something you can only do once per turn.
So it's certainly not an auto take.
I don't think so, but it can be useful.
I actually do think overall, I love this detachment, but I actually think that the enhancements are probably one of the weaker ones.
I would tend to agree.
Within the book, because then Adamantine Mantle, it is -1 damage, which is always great, but Owen also changes Torrent and Melters to 1 damage, which against Melters, that's pretty good. Against Torrent, kind of irrelevant.
Yeah.
But I just don't think there's anything here apart from potentially Champion of Humanity, and maybe if there is a way to break it with War Tempered Artifice. Potential.
There's definitely potential. I think if we sort of compare this back to, obviously, as we all agree, the Iron Hands detachment, the IRONSTORM is very good.
Yeah.
You've got these enhancements that are all character model based, whereas the ones we think are really good, all auras.
Yeah.
I think that's what we play for. I think if I'm going to pay points for an enhancement, I either want my character to be an absolute beatstick, which potentially War Tempered Artifice can, but I want the ability to do stuff for the unit. For example, I'm more than happy to pay 35 points for 10 Houses Bones because it gives the unit I'm leading a 5-up Feel No Pain.
Yeah.
That's worth it. Is it worth, if I don't take the correct vow, to spend 35 points to just half damage? No.
Right. Okay.
I think that's something that's important.
Yeah, so I think they're probably going to be quite niche when they're taken, but if we then come on to the stratagems, and I think this fits really nicely with that, giving all of their weapons assault.
Absolutely.
Because I think it gives that.
So what do you want to talk about first?
I mean, immolation protocols is a really good place to start because it's 2 CP, which instantly makes me go, oh dear, that's not good. And then you see it's a battle tactic.
Hooray!
So you can do it for free, and you get to turn your lovely, lovely torrent weapons into dev wounds.
Or, if you have 2 C spare, make 2 flamey units, dev wounds.
Or just take multiple captains.
Double aggressors.
Yeah,
going.
I have been tempted to do 2 blobs of aggressors with 2 gravis captains.
I think this detachment definitely leads towards captains with some of these battle tactics being 2 CP.
Yeah.
I think you've got what, 5 battle tactics for some. The only one is the rapid embarkation. That's not a battle tactic.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think
all the other 5 can be captain generated, which pays itself with the 80 point or so tax you have for that. Not to mention everything else he gives the army or the unit he joins, whether it's the Gravis one, whether it's a normal captain. If you want to take some jump pack units, you've obviously got the new jump captain model as well that we've got.
Yep.
I think captains are going to be fantastic in this detachment.
for sure.
So,
I think.
so what's the big combo here, do we think? So it obviously involves immolation protocols, without a doubt.
I don't think there is a big combo, to be honest. I don't think this army is looking for big combos. We've done the army that is lots of combos and high damage output.
Yeah.
This is not that, and I think if you just looked at them next to each other in the context of just fighting each other, the Iron Hands win every single time.
Okay.
But I think when you look at the Firestorm Assault Force, it's so good at getting its movement into the right positions, positioning itself into a more aggressive way, and then being able to eliminate the unit that is that it needs to eliminate, because if that unit moves, they get to overwatch it. Immolation protocols to turn their things into devastating wounds. Burning Vengeance to jump out of their vehicles and start shooting.
Crucible of Battle ties in nicely, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The immolation protocols, I think you can potentially bring down some bigger units for that. For example, having the Flamers, you put them up to, it doesn't particularly work for your Dreadnaughts and stuff like that, because obviously you only put them up to strength 5 at that point. I'm more thinking of your toughness 9 small vehicles, wounding them on 4s with your +1, and then potentially if you need it, battle tactics in a death wound on there, can't hurt at all.
Well, this is it, and
I mean, if you're going to flame like Terminators, for instance,
yeah,
going from 3 to 4, very nice.
Well, exactly. I mean, Crucible of Battle was actually an 8th edition and 9th edition stratagem. It has got worse because it was just +1 to wound. But it was almost always used every single turn.
I used to use it pretty much every single turn. Yeah.
So
in fact, you'd go to 3s, wouldn't you? Because you've got the strength increase to go from strength 4 to 5, winning on 4s, Terminators, +1 to wound, then to 3s.
Yeah.
And then devastating wounds is going to cut through that invulnerable save.
Yeah.
And the 2+ very nicely.
Yeah. So if they don't have any feel no pain defense, then they just say 3 of those dead wounds just kill the Terminator, and there's not much they can do about it.
Yeah, and I think again we're going on to that play with things like rapid embarkation and that ability just to sort of you jump your aggressors out. They deal with say 2 units, 1 in shooting, 1 in combat. They then jump back in the Redeemer, and then suddenly your opponent's got to chew through a heavy tank before they can get to them. And if they do try and do that, another unit can get Burning Vengeance. And then if they try and charge these aggressors, you get overwatched. So you've got to think, how many shots is that in one turn?
That's a lot of dice.
so that's the potential of say what? So 1 unit killed in shooting in your turn, 1 unit killed in combat in your turn, 1 unit then killed by Burning Vengeance in their turn, 1 unit then killed in Overwatch in their turn. And then even if they charge the unit, if you've still got CP lying about, you probably don't at that point, but they're also a damn tanky unit, they might well kill another unit in combat, even if they're charged. Armor content, things like that, just to make them more survivable.
Yeah.
Toughness 6 already, the captain himself halves incoming damage. That could be 5 units killed by just a single unit.
Yeah, I think this one definitely is play around transports. You need to figure out how, I think if you're going to come up against someone and someone's close to you, I'm playing Firestorm Assault Force. you say, how am I dealing with these transports?
Yeah.
That is what you need to decide in this game. Whereas in
You
the
can't let
previous
them get
attack,
close, can you?
if you go to the detachment, the previous ones, and say, how am I dealing with these dreadnoughts? You're saying, how am I going to deal with potentially these 2 redeemers, potentially a repulsor or whatever vehicles, maybe some impulsors with just some guys in. You know, obviously you can do that. You can have just some impulsors that can burn in vengeance, and you can just have 5 hellblasters. Just say,
yeah,
please don't touch my tank. I will shoot you for it.
Exactly. I think what's actually really interesting at the points that you were making there. So when we were discussing Iron Hands, we were talking about how you need to really take out the CP generators. Mm-hmm. And then when we talk about this, we're talking about how you kill the transports. And I definitely agree. If you can, you know, strand aggressors, they're not very quick. They do have assault, so they're moving a maximum of 11 inches if they're getting real lucky. Mm-hmm. But they're probably going to get stuck in the mud.
Yep.
We're talking about killing the support pieces, not the actual big damage dealers.
Yes.
Yeah. So, is that going to be the way that you handle Space Marines going forward? I think that's a really interesting question that only testing is really going to tell us.
100%.
I think we're going to see a lot more anti-tank stuff coming out to combat Space Marines, aren't we? Because with the IRONSTORM plus this, which we know is like transport heavy.
I think
I
think there's a lot of vehicles as well that you don't necessarily need the IRONSTORM to do. I think the Dreadnaughts by themselves in any detachment will work completely fine. I think there's a lot of things where there's definitely play that you can do with a lot of different vehicles. I know that in my Vanguard detachment, I just have 2 Redemptors in there because I think point for 200, they just put out a lot, and they are a lot to deal with.
Very flexible.
I can't believe how many Scarab Terminators I lost to 2 Dreadnaughts.
We played a game with old oafs.
I was like, they're unkillable.
Unfortunately, 2 Redemptors with blast plasmas. Unfortunately, deal quite well with Terminators, as a couple of opponents have found out. That you can't really. I played a game against Tau and 2 Executioners with obviously old oafs. To mention is probably a key point. But again, if I had my combi guy on there, he was on an objective, so I would have got my real ones. I think I nearly picked up. I think he had a 6-man squad and a commander, which is also him using. He also used the Feel No Pain stratagem as well. I killed 5 crisis suits and wounded the other guy. So he had a wounded crisis suit. I believe was on 2 wounds left, and he had his commander. That was just 2 activations from a Redemptor.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, they I think they are definitely, especially, and they've gone down and get another 10 points. I think for 200 up. I was happily running 3 of them in a Black Templars list at 210. I think they are.
Do we want to talk any more about the Firestorm Assault Force before we move on?
I think that kind of covers it. I think
so. With the limited amount of combos, I think when you just have the detail of what the stratagems do, you can sort of work out. I think it's internal combos with the units themselves, not necessarily the stratagems.
Yes.
Drop pods, anyone?
No, I don't think
actually.
So. No. Okay. So I see your point, but I think
to deliver within flame range.
So actually, you know what? Maybe you could do that with a drop pod and Devastators, with multi-melter Devastators. That could have some play.
Yep.
I could definitely see that, but I really think that instead of trying to kill my opponent, I want to focus on those units that are going to score me points. Sort of nickel and dime my opponent more so. Death by 1,000 cuts. Lots of re-rolling my wound rolls with maybe smaller units, and just getting to them that way, getting with that movement flexibility, and forcing them to make tough decisions on their own positioning. Because like we were talking about with scouts, the ability to screen your opponent out, which is why infiltrations are going straight in this list.
So I've just got to clarify this. So is your drop pod a transport, yay or nay?
Yes.
Yes, but you obviously automatically have to disembark out of it. So you can't do any shenanigans. You also can't embark back in it is. Yeah, unfortunately you can't go back in the drop pod. I'm glad also that's not the case, because it technically would mean, especially if they didn't classify as infantry, your Raven Guard detachment could pick up and drop pods everywhere, which I would very much do.
That's really funny.
Yeah, I think
drop it with a chain in.
Yeah. I think
my yo-yo drop pod.
Yeah, I think for the Firestorm, I think they're quite a good point to make, and I think Toby's spot on with this. is you're pretty much using this detachment as you've got ways to kill people absolutely 100% with this immolation protocols and some other things like that with the transports, but with this assault keyword as being so very strong this edition, you're pretty much telling your opponent, my stuff's safe in transports. If you try and deal with my transports, I can potentially hurt you in your own turn, and with the rules that I've got, I'm going to be scoring a lot of points. Let's say base, if I'm playing tactical, a lot of these things might be quite important. If I can score on average 80 to 85 points, can you score more than me?
Yeah.
And in a competitive sense, that can be invaluable.
Yeah, and again, when you're throwing a Redeemer in their face with a unit like, you know, tanky aggressors, then suddenly they've got to deal with those rather than those point scoring units. I know when people play me, they always say the unit we want to kill first is those Outriders, because they've got an 18-inch movement and they get to go and do an action afterwards because of being in the tactical doctrine. This is the tactical doctrine the whole time.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that 18-inch to go and suddenly do an action.
I really see what you're saying now. Yeah.
I think we all knew the power when facing Gladius, when someone said, I'm going to use the Devastator doctrine, saying, oh god, please no.
Yeah, but that's the kind of positioning that we're looking at, and that's the strength, I think, of this, because if suddenly your opponent has to pick between putting their shots into a Crusader or the Aggressors and the Outriders, just because otherwise they're going to fall behind on points.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
I really like those forcing those difficult decisions on your opponent, because not 9 times out of 10, but then you're forcing your opponent to be of such high quality that they're not going to make those mistakes. Yeah. And I think the more decisions you can force an opponent to make, the more likely you are to win.
Especially when you've got assault weapons, you don't feel as bad potentially advancing onto these objectives to deny some priming when you can still shoot with them.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of play. Oh, my Dreadnought can go obviously so far, let's say, get in within, he's got assault weapons. He moves 8 base, moving in Redemptor every turn, minimum 9 inches. Yeah. Just say 4 OC on objective. I'm still going to shoot you now. I'm also going to be strength 10 because I'm within 12 inches with my big plasma. Wounded Terminators on 2s. Potentially reroll on 1s if you've got your Combi Lieutenant. If you're getting those strength, those toughness 5, which is, there's a lot of toughness 5, which I think is the good point with Gravis. There's a lot of toughness 5, there's Terminators, a lot of places, you know, you've got a lot of things like that. Just saying, with some of these Redeemers going to +1 strength, because it's not, obviously, you would assume with a sort of detachment like this that they would be limited to sort of flame weapons. It's just always +1 strength with anything. Putting those weapons up to strength to strength 10 on some of them as well. Plasma Receptors going up to, I believe, without needing to overcharge, which is the most important thing, deep striking, we'd put them up to 8, I believe it's 8 -2/2 without overcharging, because they're base 7. Just means you... no, they overcharge to 8, I believe. Because they're 8 -3/3 on overcharge. I think that's such an important thing. Of just like, you know, if you want to drop 3 Inceptors down with twin linked wounded on 2s, you then don't need to overcharge, potentially lose those guys. I dropped 3 Inceptors. I killed 2 of them in my own turn by dropping 3 of them down. Sometimes you just roll 1s. It happens.
Yeah. No, 100%. And that's actually not something I'd thought about with Inceptors.
There's so many different units. I think the way they did this rule to make it that all weapons get assault and all weapons get +1 to hit, they made the stratagems where you want to use your melter and your target weapons such a good design choice, because it doesn't limit
+1 strength.
+1 strength, It doesn't limit how you want to build your list. You want those tech pieces to be able to use those stratagems effectively, but you can also say, well, this unit, and this unit, even though they're not flamers, they're still very good, and that gives you the flexibility with the list building.
So when we said we were done talking about the Salamanders,
we went for 5 minutes.
Absolutely not.
That's fine. All right then, so I want to delve into the Stormlance Task Force. This is your White Scars themed detachment. So the detachment rule, you get to charge in a turn which you advanced or fell back.
Solid rule.
Not bad.
Solid rule.
And then we're a bit on the fence about everything else. Fury of the Storm is +1 strength and AP, or 2 to each of those if you charge that turn. It's okay.
For 25 points, I don't see a reason why you can't make a bit of a smash captain a bit more better. But other than that, I mean,
smash chaplain.
I mean, unless we'll go into unless we're running a potentially a not White Scars.
I mean, I think you've got to compare that upgrade to Bolter Discipline, which was also
25 points, yeah.
So Fury of the Storm, it just doesn't compare.
Yeah.
You know, the difference in quality is palpable. I think if that was 15 points, like what's the one, the Gladius, the Honor Venom.
It's the exact same, but it's 15, I believe.
Yeah, and I mean, you don't get the additional on the charge, but you know what?
It's in the Assault Doctrine instead.
An extra attack and an extra
strength,
which I think I'd prefer to take that over
the AP, most probably, yeah.
The AP anyway, yeah.
It could be, yeah.
Because it's mostly use it on a relic sword, which is -2 anyway, and most of the things you're going into, it's they've got an immovable save of 4 anyway.
You pop it with, basically the whole point is you pop it with being an Assault Doctrine where you can get +1 to wound and -1 AP with the strat as well. So it's it's an interesting one for sure. I think Hunter's Instinct is probably the best one you're looking at for 10 points.
I think it's the only one I'd be looking at for me.
To make something come in strategic reserves, but then again, you're using mounted units. Do you really need them coming in from the board edge? Don't they move fast enough sometimes, especially when they can advance and fall back and stuff like that? But it's play, I guess.
Fainting Withdrawal, you could, I mean, not for the reasons that I think you could do it better in other art.
It might be nice for, like, okay, draw, engage, turn one,
useful.
Stuff like that, and then of course they can come in and perform an action there as well if need be.
Yeah, it's an enhancement, so you need a character in that unit to do it as well.
Then it becomes expensive, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a whole deal. Yeah, I think so for those. I think the rest of them, I mean, there's not too much you're looking at here for enhancements. I think with the locking of mounted weapons, and I mean mounted units. Sorry, I think one of the things we also probably need to mention is that if you're only taking them as specifically white scars, Khan no longer has his bike model anymore because it's been legend, and the only character you now have, because the captain's on bike's also been legend, or you have the chaplain on bike. So if you want to use these enhancements, you're probably going to have to take multiple of them anyway. For example, here you need to, if you want Fury of the Storm and you want Hunter's Instinct, you need a minimum of 2 chaplains on bike. Minimum. And then you need probably units to put them in if you're going through there. I think for this one as well, considering a lot of it's mounted based as well, and fly vehicles, obviously you can take your 6-man Outrider squads with an ATV on them, run a couple of those squads. Probably not, for the point you're paying, probably not what you want, but that's really the only thing you can actually take that's mounted to actually use half of the stratagems that we've got access to in this detachment, other than obviously...
Ride hard, ride fast,
great.
Good.
It's amazing.
Really good. -1 to hit, -1 to wound on your fly or mounted Astartes units.
Yeah.
I like it, 1 CP. Great. Not a lot else here that really... I mean, the blistering fusillade, cool. Yeah, cool, assault, and then sustained if you already had assault. It just feels very underwhelming to me.
Yeah.
Like, I think even like a Blood Angels force would be like hesitant to go down this route. Certainly I wouldn't be with Raven Wing for my Dark Angels. I wouldn't go down this route. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something.
I think there's some things that just definitely miss. I think the wind. I think for me specifically, I love my movement shenanigans when they can come up. Wind Swift Invasion is very good.
Yeah.
To move again, you get we'll bring up the Combi Lieutenant probably in every detachment because I think he's that good. Again, you just give a unit in your army that ability to just move away 6 inches. You basically give yourself squad tactics with tactical doctrine. Really good.
Yeah.
Really good. I think one of the things that misses for me is this whole advance and charge scenario. I'd be quite happy to potentially use some of these things for like your Brutalis or some Dreadnaughts. Because I'm like, okay, but I see a full throttle stratagem here, which is obviously I think is a quite good stratagem. Excludes walkers. Can't use it on Dreadnaughts. So
which is a shame because like the idea of like a Brutalis like full tilt towards the end, that's kind of awesome.
Because you got to think, because it just adds 6 movement characteristics instead of doing an advanced roll. So he just moves a flat 14 and charges, but you can't do it. It's only vehicles. So do I want to really flat advance my repulsor 6 and charge with it? Probably not, because it's only vehicle related and it's not walkers. So all you can use it is on his tanks.
I Yeah, I mean,
So-
you're paying TCP then.
And it's
then
2CP
3
as
if
well.
you wanted to go tank shock, right?
Yeah. And you then
Yeah.
tank shock can be the worst weapon because it's not going to have a melee weapon.
Yeah.
I think
And as much as I love Black Knights, they're not very good in combat anymore.
they do get 9 inches though, with the thing if they're mounted is flat 9 inches, which is very good movement. It's a lot of movement. They're moving what they may.
21 inches.
Yeah.
Going down to damage 1 though was a.
Yeah. The damage aspect is not great, but
Bikes in general are not good at damage, but let's maybe move away from the bikes for a second and think about the potential of other things. Lightning Assault, let's use Dark Angels as an example. So advance and charge and fall back and charge. What unit in Dark Angels does that absolutely massively boost? Knights.
yeah, slaps them.
Definitely Knights.
Slaps them
Suddenly, so much more powerful.
Okay.
Just send them in there. You can
Exactly.
put them in there. You can rapid ingress, and you don't need to worry about being an assault doctrine, for example. If you're Gladius,
Exactly.
you just always do it. You can even use a rapid ingress to launch yourself in your turn, fall back, and then charge a different unit. There's so much play around it, and then you've then got your abilities to be able to do this sorts of things. You've then got your biker units and things like that, your Black Knights and other fly vehicles, like you've got your, if they are able to shoot at, other speeders, you've got Vengeances, you've got the Talon Masters, they're all fly vehicles. Ride hard, ride fast, and the Black Knights as well are really good. I think if you stray away from the mounted units that aren't Outriders, there's a lot of play here.
Well, this is the thing, and I think there's still some play to be found in it.
I think if you're going Raven Wing, or obviously mention if you're going Space Wolves and you're running some Thundercav,
Oh, I think for Space Wolves, this.
Very good.
Yeah, Space Wolves love this.
you run Space Wolves. You then have models and characters that can take some of these enhancements.
Yeah.
Getting the Wolf Lords on the Cavs as well to get them potentially getting the +2 strength, +2 AP.
Hunter's Instinct.
I think Space Wolves are the ones that are going to make the most out of this.
I mean, you can strategic reserve 1 turn earlier with Thundercav
Yeah.
and just say I'm here.
And let's be honest, if anyone needed a detachment
Yeah.
to make them not rubbish, it was Space Wolves.
It was Space Wolves.
Those sagas are a joke.
you saw a Space Wall list. You went Gladius. Yeah, good chat. Gladius, cool.
Yeah, actually, that is something I really like with this book, because there were so many times I don't think I've really ever gone against someone where they've not gone, yeah, happy Gladius, when it's been like a serious game. Like, sure, sometimes people went thematic, but also when we're talking about competitive tournament play as we are here, why would you not go for the best thing? And it was always Gladius. Now there's arguments for the other ones.
Yeah, I don't think I've written a couple lists so far. I think I've got 3 so far, which, I mean, one of them I've carried over from before the Codex with just point changes that I've used for my Black Templars list. I've not written a Black Templars one. I've not written a Gladius one. Sorry, I've written a Vanguard detachment one, and I've written an IRONSTORM one. I've seen Gladius. I know Gladius. Codex has just come out today, so try some stuff out.
Yeah. So while we dispense with that one quite quickly, because I don't really think there's too much more to unpack
Not
in that. Why don't we
particularly, no.
jump over to the first company task force, because
My
I
sadness.
mean,
My poor sadness.
it does seem to be one of definitely the bottom end, doesn't it?
I think it hurts me as well, because from previous codexes I know these enhancement names and I know how cool they are, and these enhancements are just not what you want at all, and not to mention the detachment rule is just so painful to just read.
So once per battle, you get to use
That's the one.
Oaths of Moment.
Yeah.
So you get the rerolls on to win as well.
Yeah.
And then let's have a look at the enhancements. I haven't had a chance to
I
look
think
at
for
this
these
one yet.
Let's just not. They're terrible.
I
Oh,
think
really?
the things for these enhancements, if you want to look over them, it's the exact same way. Sort of in the Gladius, you've got a lot of enhancements that do bonuses in tactical doctrine, in certain doctrines. This one, unfortunately, again, like the detachment rule, you get once per battle abilities.
It's terrible.
So, for example, probably the ones you're looking at, which are the actually good once per ability games, but they're again once per battle, you've got your Iron Resolve to give the bearer's unit a fight, feel no pain. Well, I can just take Black Templars and have it all game.
Yeah.
Every single turn. There's just
the Imperial Sword, add 1 to the attacks characteristic of the model, and then once per game you can give +1 attacks to the rest of the
everyone.
squad. Just for just for one turn.
It's good. It's good. I think if the detachment rule was a bit better...
I mean, going in on a big squad of Terminators?
It could be good. I mean, putting we mentioned before, these assault Terminators with lightning claws, putting them with 6 attacks each could be handy. But again, it's once per battle.
What's not dying to 50 attacks?
Exactly. I think that's the thing you've got to... I think if you put in Thunder Hammers, giving them 4 attacks is good. Yeah. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of Thunder Hammers. I think Power Fists being 4 attacks when they hit on 3s.
I do like
For example, once per game, putting some Aggressors up to 4 attacks each hitting on 3s for twin linked. Don't need to then use your detachment rule once per battle because you've already got twin linked. Some of those things you definitely can play with, but I think the way you have to play around it just is a bit of an issue for me personally with this detachment.
Yeah. There's ways to use the stuff here 100%. For sure, isn't there?
I was really looking forward to this attachment because it's got everything I want. I want Terminators, Blade Guard, Vanguard Vets.
The elites.
That's what I want to run. I want a swarm of Black Templars, with some Crusaders in there with Terminators and that. And that's what I'm looking for. Unfortunately, how some of these rules work is unfortunately not always going to lead to it, but there's definitely some play with some bits you can do with this attachment.
Heroes of the chapter, I'm liking it. It's locked to all the things that you'd want to bring for your first company elite units.
Yes, a lot of the Stratagems do that.
Okay, they have to be below half strength. So I mean, really, how many of your squad are left by that point to make use of it? It's kind of a bit sad.
Yeah.
+1 to hit and +1 to wound, but I mean, if you're down to 4 guys left, then are you really getting that much value out of it?
Yeah. I think you can have, you have to have 4 guys left in a character for it to work as well, because there's a total of 5 guys in the squad. I mean, it can be useful, but I guess if you want it to do over the line stuff, then you've got that opportunity. But it's not really something that I want in my stratagems to be. If I'm dying really hard, can I make my units more ability? Whereas if you go to something like the IRONSTORM, you just hit hard. You don't need to worry about it. Or you do things like Mercy's Weakness, and if your opponent's damaged, you then go, please go away.
Yeah.
That's where you want, especially competitive play. You don't want to be hurting to get your bonuses. Absolutely. You want to just be like, I'm full force. Let's see what I can do.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you just compare this in context to the other ones, and I would say it's the only one that's really very unbalanced because. If you look at the detachment rules for everything else, they've usually got some amount of play for either the mission or for dealing a lot of damage.
Yep.
In terms of extremist level threat, I'm so disappointed because it's just, I will kill that single unit. There are so many different ways that I can build to do that in my army, and that is not the way I want to do it.
No.
Extremist level threat, compare that to the Iron Hands. Compare that to giving assault to everything you've got. It's just, I mean, we haven't even come on to the Raven Guard yet, but stealth on every unit over 12 inches versus...
We'll get on to that. I have some fun stuff, but
it's just so disappointing.
It's not what you want, and I think a lot of people, especially a lot of people that have played Marines for a little bit of time now, really like these sort of detachments where you Terminate, especially with the new models coming out with Terminators. You've got Blade Guard. I love Blade Guard models. They're so sweet. I love it, but it's just an unfortunate scenario.
So it's worth saying. I like the orbital teleportation.
I think it's stratagem quite easy.
Being able to pick up Terminators, and there's no they have to be wounded first or anything like that.
There is not.
You just pick them up and put them down again.
But it's a strategic point instead of a battle tactic.
Yeah. So your Terminator Captain, which you're going to have in there for your reroll charges as well, because it's synergistic and nice. No.
Honestly,
I guess it does enable you to do something else that turn instead. Fine. Cool.
Yeah, sure.
I think
you could rapid ingress. No,
yeah.
Yeah, you could. Oh no, it will arrive. So no.
Will arrive.
Rapid ingress. That's a shame.
So I think with this one, I think basically if you take out your duty, your nani, you take out your heroes of the chapter and the terrifying proficiency. If you take those 3 out, the other 3 are actually pretty decent stratagems.
Yeah. And one of them's the generic one.
Armour of Contempt is just good on everything. Yeah. It's a great stratagem. And I think the orbital teleportation is obviously a great strat. And Legendary Fortitude, although it's quite upsetting that, it could be quite funny because obviously if you take, for example, Deathwing Knights, you can make them -2 damage. So you can stack that sort of stuff because they are Terminator models. There is definitely some things, and I think when you then have to basically for a detachment to be balanced or to work, when you have to go deep into people's codex supplements, if you will, as they're normally been released in books, to say this unit is really good with this singular stratagem, you can't have a detachment balanced around that.
Especially when you can just go, you know what, I'm just going to get advance and charge or fall back and charge.
Yeah, I'd rather do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd rather than get actually into combat would be fantastic.
Exactly. I think we should very swiftly move on.
Yeah.
I think you guys are more excited about this one.
Oh, this is my favourite.
Yeah.
This is my favourite.
Oh, it looks really good.
Oh,
it looks really good.
There's some. I might be able to convince some of the Dark Angel players. I know that you're both some Dark Angel players. I might be able to convince you with some things here that I might be able to get you to do.
Yeah, go for it. So Vanguard Spearhead.
This is my
clarity.
Yeah, my favourite. Obviously, potentially Raven Guard, or the Raven Guard one, if you will.
Totally not Raven Guard.
Yeah. I will be listing all of my competitive lists as totally not Raven Guard with my Black 10 plus thing. Yeah, I think the list that I generated have always, I think they've been named. I think that the name when I named it is always Crusading but very sneaky.
So detachment rule, take it away.
So every Adeptus Astartes unit from your army, so this accounts to literally everything. If you're allying in obviously Assassins and Knights, doesn't work, but this is just everything. If you're not within 12, so if you're further away than 12 inches, you get -1 to hit and you get the benefits of cover. So every unit in your army, if you're outside of 12, basically gets to pop smoke for free.
Tanks, Land Raiders,
infantry.
So
yeah, I can run my meme 140 Crusaders list, and every single one of them's -1 to hit, ignores cover. Gets the benefit of cover without me needing to worry. It's just annoying to shift.
I wonder how many Terminators you could fit in a list. just total. Just how many Terminators total you could fit.
Well, they all went down, so you honestly might be able to squeeze like 5, maybe like 10 squads. If you're in about 10 squads, I think you can probably you can have 5. Each with a character, and then be like, okay, I've got some random shenanigans for mission play, and then be like,
Scouts.
Scouts. Interceptors, please Interceptors. I'll get onto that in a sec.
Yeah.
So I think that rule is really good. I think we need to understand. And again, I don't want to put down the First Company Task Force too much, but you've got to think when this just gives you it for 10 turns. In a game, or 10 turns, 5 battle rounds, you just get everything. This is that having a detachment rule is once per battle round, so it's only effective in 2 turns of the game out of 10. You've got a rule that's effective 1/5 of the game, the whole game that you're playing.
Yeah,
it's just it's one of those things where this just always obviously measuring out the 12 inches is another completely different scenario, but it's just always available to you, and I think it's just so. I was speaking about, obviously, we've spoken before about how I've been building my my Black Templar list with the triple Redemptors. The whole point of the Dreadnought list is this loads of 2-up saves with the 6-up Feel No Pain, or the big Terminator brick with the 5-up Feel No Pain. I'm basically trading.
Of course, I'm even more durable.
Exactly. Instead of it being a 6-up Feel No Pain, I'm instead making you -1 to hit against me, and I always get cover. I don't need to stick an arm behind some cover. I can use my full movement and say, this wants to die. And then I just make sure that your movement doesn't get you within 12 to see me, and I'm like, you're -1 to hit. Armour of Contempt, if you're shooting at me with anything that's AP2, I'm taking 2-up saves against, because I automatically get covered with Armour of Contempt. This is why even in the Vanguard, I'm not taking IRONSTORM for this one. I'm taking the Vanguard. I've still got 2 Redemptors in there, because they're just so durable to chip. At 200.
Yeah, I think ironically that's probably what we're gonna see. Instead of like the cool scout units and things like that for Raven Guard, it's going to be, here is my massive blob of blokes. Deal with them with -1 to hit.
Have fun, my sir.
Literally.
My scout Dreadnaughts.
Yeah.
Oh, and don't you worry as well. I've got ways to make those big blobs be in your deployment zone turn 1. Don't you worry. And that leads us straight onto the Blade Driven Deep. So this is where I think I might be able to convince you Dark Angel.
How many points is it?
This is 25 points.
Okay.
I know these enhancements. I've been looking over them quite a lot. So Blade Driven Deep is just an infantry model, just no restrictions, just infantry.
Yeah.
It makes a unit infiltrate. Could I convince you by infiltrating 10 Deathwing Knights onto your opponents 9 inches away from their deployment zone, and say Armour of Contempt, cover, -1 to hit if you can't get within range of me with everything. If I go first, I'm charging you. And just saying it's on the board, or just infiltrate it up the board in obscuring cover, and then just say I'll be on your home objective in 2 turns.
Yeah, I mean, I think locking down the amount, because you stick that on a Terminator chaplain, like you're not losing out much on that.
No,
I really see the aggression that you could get with the
you're basically paying 25 points for a potentially better rapid ingress because you can't screen out as well because it's before the game starts.
It's odd that it's not like Phobos.
Locked, yeah.
Don't also get me wrong as well.
I suppose that most of them do it anyway, don't they?
And also, I think the key thing as well to put this up is we've got stratagems to make us redeploy, so you can potentially, if you need to, you
could do that on Gravis.
You can put on any single infantry. Currently, my list, I want to do Terminators. Yeah. Currently, I have a Biologist with 6 Aggressors infiltrating up. Yeah. So I don't need a transport for them because they're going to be up there already.
Yeah. I do think that Shadow Masters lends itself to 2-up saves just purely because obviously you can't
cover armor
to 3-up.
Cover armor contempt.
Exactly. So cover armor contempt it's been really positive. We've talked about how we moved Redemptors because of their durability. Terminators as well. I think that's 100% going to be what we're seeing with Shadow Masters. It is huge amounts of durability, forcing your opponent to come closer to those combat-focused blobs, because think about it, with the 50 attacks out of your Lightning Claw Terminators, you got to get close before you can start hurting them.
I'm going to be close.
Exactly, and if you are close to that blob, if you're 11 inches away, they've got to roll a 6-inch charge.
Yep.
So what else do you like in the enhancements?
So I think Ghostweave Cloak is a one where it's a really, for 15 points, it's very good. It's finding the characters you want to put on it. Yeah. To be honest, if you really wanted to, you could just have a captain in a jump pack, be lone op, stealth.
I like that.
And then just say he's going to run around doing actions for me. Yeah. And then once per game, if he gets in combat, he's going to pop he's going to have, I would have a Power Fist. He's then going to go +3 attacks there for you and just try and send it into something. He, I believe, with the enhancement is 100 points flat for a lone op, which is expensive, but you can see some play with it. Yeah. I think the only thing that misses is what I want to put this on is a character that's going to do me some shenanigans. For example, the lieutenant with Combi Weapon, already lone op. Yeah. I think potentially if you've got 15 points left over, just to say this character, when you kill the unit, can just become lone op after, can be very useful.
Yeah, potentially. Okay.
So if I have, for example, I could potentially be doing 10 jump pack intercessors or 10 Vanguard veterans with jump packs. I can just say the captain in this squad because I've got 15 points available. He's mainly a lone op and stealth. If you kill the unit in front of him, if you're not within 12 of him, no more units can shoot at him. So he's just going to be him by himself because it then triggers as soon as he becomes his own attached unit.
Wow. Yeah.
There's some things, I think if you have 15 points spare, there's no reason not to.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll be moving things around to put it in my list, but it's definitely handy. I think the next one, execute and redeploy, probably the worst one.
The worst one, you said?
Yeah, okay. I think the Phobos model only, if you shoot at a target, you then basically can move up to 6 inches. It is very handy, but for example, what Phobos unit are you putting this with? Do you want to attach a character to an Incursor unit? Probably not. The Eliminators already do that with the Carbine. I think off the top of my head, I think it's 20 points. I just don't think you're using it.
Execute and redeploy for 20 points. Yeah, I mean,
I just don't see the because it's Phobos model only. If I could put it on, I don't know.
Devastators.
Yeah, if I can put it on anything else, or if I can put it on, I don't know, anything like potentially Aggressors. If I want to shoot with them, I can then move them. It's up to 6 inches for a normal move, so 5 inches. I can move them onto an objective. They can't charge, but I don't need them to charge if they're moving on there. Some stuff like that. Then potentially you got to play. I think with it being Phobos only, it's a little bit of an issue.
Yeah, I think
it's just not a lot you need to put with it. Otherwise, yeah, I think potentially if you want to, make your combi lieutenant even more movable, he can move away from you if you charge him. He's just going everywhere. He doesn't care. He just does whatever he pleases.
I'm not spending 100 points on that.
He then becomes 90. I think if you
he is a meme by himself.
He is hilarious.
That is, I mean, especially when we put into context the old AI cover of I'm Still Standing.
if I can, like, I mean, if I can move, shoot, move in your turn, he potentially can move 3 turns a battle round. Not to mention charging and stuff like that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then another Phobos one.
The Shadow War Veteran. So, you know when I mentioned before that I can get multiple different specs? This is your 30-point stratagem on a Phobos unit, which would probably go on my Lieutenant because he's a load up, so he can keep it. And it's a different rule, so you can just increase the stratagem by 1 CP. Obviously, it doesn't say in the book that it's battle tactic. You'll need to look at your FAQs to make sure that obviously battle tactics are the ones that convect in the data slates and stuff like that. So with this book, obviously, I'd make sure to look at some of these rules to make sure you're going over your data slates and stuff like that to make sure those rules are how they work, because it's not always in the detail in the codex, because obviously some of these were printed, as you can see by the points in the book as well. This was printed before these data slates came out, so they wouldn't have identified those in those points.
Sure.
Some of us may have got very, very excited at Desolators going to 120 points.
Unfortunately, we killed that dream very fast.
Yeah.
I think
about half an hour, didn't it?
I got so excited. I got so excited. I was like, oh my god, all the play I can do.
Oh my god. Imagine, no.
So let's get on to the stratagems and figure out some nasty combos, shall we?
Honestly, I think 5 of these are superb stratagems. I think one of them, which is your 2 CP one, potentially is niche, but it's a battle tactic, so we can get into it. I think a Deadly Prize is amazing. To be able to 1 CP with a mounted or infantry unit, for example, I can do this with your advancing outriders. They're mounted. You just 1 CP in your command, start of your command phase, you just sticky an objective. Great. Then becomes sabotage. If they move on it on a 2-up, they just take 3 mortals. I mean, but it's each time they normal move, advance, or charge. So they could potentially be taking multiple activations of these wounds if their movement doesn't get them off the objective.
Oh, I see.
So if they move onto the objective, charge me on the objective, they're taking 2d3 mortal wounds.
That's really nice.
So sometimes you can stack it because it's each activation. Each time an enemy unit ends a normal move, advance, fall back, or charge. If they fall back from that charge, another set of mortals. It has to be on the objective, but I would pay 1 CP to just sticky an objective anyway.
With Outriders and their base size, I think you could have a lot of fun with that.
Having some Outriders on an objective, sticking it, and then going, I'm going 18 away. This objective is still mine.
Supply drop and what's the other one? Deploy servo skulls. I know that one's a bit more niche, but those are both missions where the primary is so important. So that's obviously there are missions where that won't come up as much because primary is like hold 1, hold more, or hold 1, hold 2. But yeah, no, 100%.
I think it's just useful.
Some interesting stuff.
I mean, the next one, Surgical Strikes. I think this one is the more niche thing, but it being a battle tactic is very helpful. Just given a unit precision.
Yeah.
I think it can be helpful. I think especially if you're playing against Necrons, just saying please just leave those characters. Do they just need to be gone? Can be very useful.
Well, again, if we're thinking about secondaries as well, Assassinate's a secondary that you can score 5 on pretty damn easily.
I think so, and I think it being a battle tactic is very much key.
Absolutely.
If it was 2 CP non-battle tactic, you wouldn't see it. With my Pacific Captain, are you really gonna vect my Surgical Strike? Probably not.
Yeah.
So when I need it in a pinch, let's pop it for the free battle tactic. I think that's really good. The next one is one of my favourites. Strike from the Shadows. 1 Adeptus Astartes infantry unit from your army that has not selected to be shot yet. If you're over 12 inches, which is synergy with your Shadow Master's rule to being over within 12, you get +1 ballistic skill and +1 AP. If you destroy a single model, they also must take a battle shock test.
So Adeptus Astartes infantry, so what are you putting this on then?
So the aggressor blob that I'm infiltrating up the board.
Bolters?
Yep, that takes them up to AP2 without me needing to do anything else. If I'm shooting the closest target at +1, obviously. I think that's really good.
Even a Terminator blob is nice.
I mean, you've got to think as well, if we're playing the twin linked, if I've got it currently in my list, I've got a 6-man Inceptor squad. If I don't want to deep strike from 3 inches, I want to deep strike from 12 away, then I say they're hitting on 2s, I don't really need oaths for them. I'm going to be wounding you on probably, let's say I want to overcharge and get those up. If I overcharge, I'm then strength 8 -4, 3 damage on those Inceptors with twin link.
Yeah.
that 6-man, they've gone down in points a 2 is what I believe
110.
it's.
Yeah.
220 for that squad.
Yeah.
We'll get into why I think it's also really good. Again, there's another stratagem that relates very much. There's a lot of shenanigans that you can do, which is I really like. I think this stratagem, again, for 1 CP, again, a battle tactic if you want to double up on it, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
Calculated feint. This is going to cause some issues with how it's worded. So, I will get out of this straight away. It does not say on this stratagem that your opponent can redeclare the charge. So if they fail it, they have to stand there and deal with it. You can't.
We expect this to be.
I would assume that you can, because every other way you can do that. But rules as written, you cannot redeclare the charge with this stratagem. If I pop it, if you declare a charge, you cannot redeclare.
I do think it's actually meant to be like that. Purely
it could potentially be, yeah.
It's a D6 roll, so it could literally just be 1 inch.
Unfortunately, I'll give you a way that Phobos and Scouts move flat 6.
Oh yeah, of course.
And the way that you do this is, for example, you have a unit that you think is going to get charged, right?
Yeah.
You then basically put like a single infiltrate, any sort of unit that where if they were to make, they'd also have to be engagement range. So if you have, for example, Terminators, let's say you have, let's use the infiltrate Deathwing Knights as an example.
Right.
If you have those Terminators there, and in between each Terminator you have a Phobos unit. If you have them within 1 inch of each other, they have to declare them as a charge because they are all in engagement range of both of them. My Phobos unit then flat moves 6 away. You then can't reach both of them. You fail the charge, you cannot redeclare it. So I can make my Terminator unit unchargeable. Because if I string out my Terminator unit around, you can't go over, unless you've obviously got fly, a little bit of a niche scenario. If I have my Terminators in sort of like a U shape, if you will, with my Phobos units, you have to then go around the entire Terminator unit to make that charge. If it's a 1 inch charge, you might still fail it. If I move away flat 6. Which is why I think, especially for this, they might change it to redeclare the charge.
Is it a that guy move? It is a that guy move.
I would tell my opponent I'd do it before they did it, because I'm not going to gotcha people with it, but I will tell them that's how that works.
I think you've got to give someone the heads up.
I would tell people, if someone goes to me at the start of a game, especially a competitive, say, what sort of things can your stratagems do if you don't know it? Definitely, please bring this up, because it will give your opponent a very much feels bad, because you're not doing anything wrong by using the stratagem, you're playing it as it is, but it's something you need to tell your opponent about. If they play their turn around needing to kill these Terminators, and you play saying, haha, you're not going to be able to do it, and then when he declares a charge saying, no, that's a really bad gotcha, and we don't want to do that.
No.
Alright, so move on. Last one.
Guerrilla Tactics, probably my favourite. I think Calculated Feint is probably, other than your Phantasms, probably the top 3 stratagems in the game. It's, if you can make it work with Phobos units, it is so strong. Guerrilla Tactics, however, is my favourite one.
Okay.
So, it's the append of your opponent's fight phase. This is obviously could be quite important. The timing of this is your opponent's fight phase, because obviously it's the end of your opponent's fight phase. So, for example, this can link with Calculated Feint. If you move away, they fail the charge. You can then Guerrilla Tactics them out as well and keep them safe, because you're out of that range. You have to be away from the restriction is you must be more than away from 3 inches away.
3 inches is bloody tiny.
Exactly. We'll find out that 3 inches is hard to...
Sorry out there, gents. 3 inches is tiny.
It's perfectly average, guys. So, Guerrilla Tactics is 2 scouts, 2 Phobos units or scout squads. I will bring up now that the scout keyword in this doesn't make a difference because they already do this. The only thing that makes a difference is the scouts need to be 6 inches away, this stratagem needs to be 3 inches away. So it can come up, but it's more than unlikely. Right. So 2 Phobos units, 2 scout units, or 1 Adeptus infantry unit from your army. You can remove that unit from the battlefield and put them into strategic reserves. It does not say they have to come in. There's no stipulation that they come in your next movement phase, they just go into strategic reserves. You can rapid ingress them, you can do whatever you need to do. Obviously, it's your opponent's fight phase, so your turn would be up next, so you would then not use them for that turn. But if you need to keep them for objectives and stuff like that, there is no rule stopping you from doing that. Now, with this, one of the main combos that I have is...
Take it away.
You've got 3 real combos with this that I would do. The first one, if we link back to the blade-driven deep, you can infiltrate a Terminator unit, get it killing stuff. Opponent's fight phase, if they don't want to come within 3 inches to charge it, you say this Terminator unit's gone, we're coming back down next turn somewhere else. You can't get away from this unit. I'm up, down. If you think about Grey Knights, how hard is it to get away from Grey Knights?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I can do this every single turn, if I want to as well. Less effective, I have to spend CP, there's restrictions, but basically, I've had it come up in about 10+ games before. Sometimes my Terminator unit doesn't die, but it also, sometimes it becomes unusable for a couple turns because it's done what it needs to do.
Yeah.
Whereas this means, you know what, let me infiltrate, let me get the ball rolling with these Terminators. If you then, you know, for Tau, they're not going to want to be within, you know, these amount of inches because I'm just going to heroically intervene, do some sort of shenanigans like that. I can then just say, right, they're coming up away, they're going to come and just deep strike on this away. The second one I think is really important is just generic units that can just deep strike. I have a squad of, obviously, you've got units, infantry units like the jump intercessors. If you need them to, you know, do you some objectives, get you some behind enemy lines, anything like that. 1 CP, they come up, they deep strike wherever they need to go, they score me some objectives, they score me investigate signals, you know. I can have the Calgar's assassin doing it as well, you know, I can have that mission play, really good for mission play as well, with things like Vanguard vets, anything with the jump pack really that can do the deep strike as infantry. The third one, which I think is probably the most powerful one, is your Inceptors. Now, when I saw this rule that you can put a unit from the battlefield into strategic reserves, my mind went instantly to what is Meteoric's Descent, how it is written. The ability is not once per game or once per battle. It is every time this unit is set up from strategic reserves, it can deep strike within 3 inches.
Nice.
So if I was to pick them back up after 3-inch deep striking, for example, or potentially 12-inch so I can get the benefit of Strike of Shadows, that then in your opponent's fight phase, I can pick them back up and deep strike them 3 inches somewhere else to use them. With a 6-man squad of Inceptors, to just pick up, drop down, all with plasmas, just picking them up, dropping them down 3 inches every single turn. It is so powerful.
End of your opponent's fight phase. So even if they do get charged, you can bugger off out of the way.
Exactly.
And make it easy for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hard to pin down, aren't you?
You are not. The detachment is, ironically, it's not wanting to get in. It's not wanting to get into combat. It's not wanting your opponent to get into combat with you.
Yeah.
Is the point.
It looks like it's all on your terms.
You can. It is very much on your terms. You've got things that promote melee with infiltrating a unit in there. You've got ones where you can precision in combat and stuff like that. There's definitely plays that you can do, sticking objectives to move forward to then obviously getting into combat as well. There's definitely different ways you can do that. And then you've then got ways to say, it's not my turn, let's wait a little bit, let's see what I can do, let me deep strike some guys in, and then let's get the ball rolling there.
Yeah.
There's so many tricks.
It's getting into combat with the elements that you want,
Exactly.
and then keeping everything that you don't want safe.
Yeah,
that's good.
I really like that.
Really good.
I think as of recording this video as well, Tau has kind of emerged as one of the front runners of the meta. They had a 60% at the LGT. Well, Ghost Keels are very, very good. Their shooting is really efficient.
They also dropped heavily in points.
Yeah, the crisis blob is able to just usually kill whatever it touches.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're one of the top armies at the moment. You know, highest win percentage, currently higher than Eldari.
But yeah, no, I think especially for Tau, obviously, if they get +1 to hit, if they've got a marker like they ignore cover, sort of negates a little bit of my rule, but the +1 to hit is negated by my rule.
So that's the point I was
So
making. It feels that when you can have so many lone operatives, so many out of phase movements, a -1 to hit has always been one of the worst things to do against the Tau army.
Yeah.
And the amount of infiltration you can get in just to get in their faces, you don't have to punch that hard.
Yeah.
And also just you can use guerrilla tactics then just to protect yourself from the turn the crisis unit suit comes down, because they are forced to put that crisis suit on the table by turn 3 because it hasn't started on the battlefield. Your unit, if you started on the battlefield, you can put it in 4 or 5. it doesn't have that rule limitation.
Oh, really?
Exactly,
Okay.
yeah. So they are suddenly in that position where they have to commit that huge unit that if it does not kill the unit that they need it to kill, they're probably losing that game. So suddenly you have a lot of play, a lot of ways to get around what they're looking to do. So if it does consistently become a Tau meta, I would be using Vanguard Spearhead.
I think as well. I think you've sort of hit the nail on the head with the way the effect works of not having to put it down straight away. There's also so much flexibility.
Absolutely.
I don't think people realise how much of a benefit it is to not have to put it down next turn. Because if you pick up a unit and say it's coming down next turn, your opponent can say, well, I'll make it so it doesn't come where I want you want it to go. Whereas if I hold it, they can't spend 2 turns being like, please don't put it where you want to. Then eventually I'm like, there's a gap I've created, there they go.
Yeah, and I mean, I think if, you know, the amount of times where we've discussed how important rapid ingressing is and things like that,
Fantastic.
I mean, you know, that's always been such a powerful strategy to do. The more you can flex around and frustrate your opponent with that, I think the better. I mean, I think what I was kind of coming on to and thinking was more so that maybe, yeah, Firestorm is the best at scoring, and IRONSTORM is probably the best at damage dealing.
Yep.
But I think in terms of playing around what your opponent is doing, Vanguard, it dictates the most around the pace of the game.
Yeah.
Right, go on then. What unit are you most excited to use? Unit or character?
Unit or character? I think if we go in unit specifically, I think the thing I'm most looking forward to is probably I think it's got to be probably the Inceptors again.
Okay.
Not to mention obviously that points drops. I think specifically the exciting part is using Inceptors with the Raven Guard stuff, obviously.
Yeah.
I think that's
constantly up and down.
That's the combo I'm looking for. The other thing would be the infiltrating, the Terminators. But I think the Inceptors is sort of where I'm looking for.
The Inceptors would be so good because you could come down and systematically wipe out all those little small units people leave behind in their deployment zone.
Yeah.
Sort of turn 3, their main forces moved out to sort of take the midfield, and they leave, you know, a squad of rubrics, a squad of, you know,
with a
termagants, whatever, like just something small behind, just to sit on an objective, and you can just boop, 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 boop,
I mean,
systematically wipe them out.
Even if you've put in low knock assassins or anything on, no objective is safe from these guys with 3-inch deep strike.
Yeah,
nothing is safe.
Exactly.
Scott?
I'm a simple man. Absolutely, the Executioner with some reliability. I can't wait to see the amount of pain that puts out to a single unit.
You just wait till I start getting really upset when his laser destroyer cannons hit me 3 times because it's exploded and it kills my tank.
Yeah, auto-wheeling on 5s and stuff like
and
that.
It's just like, okay, I get no saves. Okay.
Yeah,
no, I think the hilariousness of being able to give these really anti-tank vehicles these sustained hits 5 and just say, oh whoops, I get a free reroll to hit, or I've got oaths. I've accidentally spiked and I have 2 shots of hit you 4 times with a strength 14. You know, if you spike that and potentially say you're playing against a knight player, his big knight potentially, you know, he doesn't think that he needs to pop the 4-up invuln or something like that, and potentially doesn't fail or doesn't make enough of them. Just pop a big knight just because you've spiked some critical hits.
Well, they've got the range where you could very easily flex to a different target after shooting the first one. At that, don't pop the strategy because let's be honest, if you've got say 3 anti-tank
platforms,
then they're probably going to pop it on the first one you target. And then you just switch, pull your strategy.
Yeah.
One could probably quite efficiently kill.
I think with the roll, I think the play you make, I think if you have 3 of them, you oath one of them. They're like, oh god, it's oathed. Let me pop my defensive strats on them. The other 2 lancers, let's say, that you've drawn lines to, don't need oath. No. So they're just going to say, that's dead.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And there's definitely player on.
Nothing in Iron Hands needs oath because they all. needs the. actually, they don't need oath because they've got their ability.
They get the rerolls, and then if you roll badly on, say you roll 2 wounds, you say, okay, I just won't reroll. I'll only reroll 1 of my damages. I'll reroll both wounds.
Yeah.
What are you excited about?
I think. So I've had a lot of thinking on it, which is why I started down that end, so that I had the time. I'm actually going to go with the Captain in Gravis armor. because I really like what he can do for the aggressors, being able to give them a free strap, and then also just he on his own, he's a bit of a tank. You know, he halves the incoming damage against him. He does a lot of damage in combat between his power fist and his probably either relic blade or relic chainsword, and then also that bolt storm gauntlet. It's not bad, and it can shoot in combat. So he's got some real play about him. So you know, I think the fact that he gives that free stratagem, the refuse to yield is a nice ability, and he can lead a very relevant unit in a Land Raider. It just elevates the amount of play. And I think that it's just going to be a really interesting, fun unit to get to grips with, and it's very on brand for Salamanders as well. I think the greatest thing about this codex and about this review is that we've got 3 different players, and we've all picked a different formation.
Yeah.
And that to me shows really strong internal balance, because
100%.
If we look at the Tyranids, and I don't mean to have a go at Tyranids, but A, they're Xenoscum, and B, there's only a sort of couple of them that you'd really pick.
Hey there, and well done for making it to the end of the video. I want to thank both my guests today for coming in and giving up their Saturday to talk about the new Space Marine Codex. Toby and Korben, thank you. Next week we're going to have a special new battle report featuring Tyranids versus Space Marines, so come and check that out. It'll feature Toby and Korben again, and I'll get to relax behind the camera for a change. So, if you want to stay tuned for that, I'll see you next time.